Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Horror Kiwi podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and with me as always, I have my co-host,
Rudy, horror aficionado and fan of all things that scare the shit out of me.
And today we have a very special guest, Kotaku's Patrick Klepek. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Now, I know we only have you for a short time, so there's some questions let's get out of the way.
Okay. That sounds dangerous, but all right.
Okay. What is your number one all-time favorite horror movie?
Oh, that's a mean question. Favorite. It's probably Hellraiser. It's Hellraiser's not the scariest film, but Hellraiser was a film that sort of made me fall in love with Clive Barker. It was one of the films that made me understand that horror could have context and subtext that was more than just things popping out in the dark and scaring you. There's just sort of a lot going on in Hellraiser, especially if you've read the short story it's based on, The Hellbound Heart. Hellraiser is definitely up there for me as my all-time favorite.
Yeah, Hellraiser's a great movie. I love Hellraiser.
Yeah, I wish Clive Barker was continuing to, made more films, but there's a very limited time that he kind of spent in Hollywood, and then after Nightbreed kind of pieced out.
Yeah, and we've talked about Nightbreed on a test recording. And we have thoughts about that movie.
Patrick, what did you think of Nightbreed?
Oh, I think it's terrific. It's one of my wife's favorite films. I hadn't seen it till she kind of turned me on to it, but pretty much if Clive Barker puts a stamp on it, I'm pretty much on board.
Does that mean you also like Midnight Meat Train?
Well, the adaptations of Clive Barker's work that he didn't direct, I think, have a much more mixed history. I thought Midnight Meat Train was okay. I think it works much better as a short story than it did as a film. I don't think they quite pulled off the twist at the end there in the same way that it felt like when I read the short story that, it kind of blew my mind. Clive Barker adaptations are kind of like Stephen King adaptations. You hope for the best, but often they don't turn out that way.
Right. Super hit or miss, mostly misses. And did you pick up the Scream Factory version of Nightbreed, or did you get to watch the director's cut?
I have not seen the director's cut yet. The last time I saw Nightbreed was a number of years ago, but I know that they have since unearthed the extra material, but I have not seen that version.
Mike, your thoughts on the Nightbreed director's cut?
It's long, man. It kind of drags. Yeah. There's some weird, kind of pointless shit in the middle of that thing. Or not in the middle, the beginning.
It's super rough.
Yeah.
We all thought it was going to be this lost treasure, and I was like, man, I kind of did not need the Nightbreed director's cut. It's somehow, yeah.
It's really Clive Barker? You thought this was better? But whatever. He has his weird things he likes. There's weird, random, useless bullshit in Hellraiser, too. Not nearly as much, but... Okay. Second one. You work in the games industry, Patrick. So...
Correct.
What is your number one all-time favorite horror video game?
Well, so this... Okay, I need to probably revise... I mean, so the thing about horror video games is that... like with most horror, the first time you watch it, it's easier to be scared because obviously it's all new. It's the scares, the context. It's the first time you're encountering them. So the second time you play a horror game, like there has to be a little more going for it. So, I think that's why people love Silent Hill 2 and other games like that, because you can play them again and again and really get something out of it on multiple playthroughs. Until they took it down, even though it was only a demo, PT was absolutely one of the scariest things I've ever played. It was amazing, like from top to bottom. I guess if it's, if I take that out, given that people can't get it anymore, and if my PS4 hard drive crashes, I'll no longer be able to play it. I'm trying to think what would be my favorite one. I guess after that is probably Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which is up there for me as well as being one of the scariest games of all time. And what I love about Amnesia that is, a little old hat at this point, but, the fact that they took away guns was novel when that game came out, and then so many games copied that afterwards that it's easy to kind of be tired of that sort of design approach. But Amnesia: The Dark Descent is the kind of game that when I finished it at the time, it seemed like you should have gotten a t-shirt showing that I survived Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Okay, actually, those two are exactly what our last guest said for that question. So
yeah, that's right.
Those
we
two
got
games
two
are
votes in for those.
Those two games are 2 for 2.
Good answers.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play much of PT yet. Luckily, I have it on my hard drive sitting there.
Yeah, it is definitely recommended.
Do you think most new horror games or stuff that touts itself as horror games just relies way too much on jump scares, like the Five Nights at Freddy's and basically anything else that's super popular or sells well?
Well, I think, what's interesting about those games is that they are very clearly designed to be streamed and consumed in a way that is different than how horror is traditionally sort of like games like Five Nights at Freddy's are designed because there's an audience in mind that may not even play the game, that their primary way of experiencing it may be watching a YouTube video or a Twitch stream. So those games are kind of designed with jump scares in mind, and I think that's fine. And what I think's unique about Five Nights at Freddy's is that I think the jump scare can be an effective tactic, sort of as a creator when you're trying to scare people. And what I think is unique about Five Nights at Freddy's is that it's a punishment, right? So most times when you encounter a jump scare in a film or in a game, the reason it feels cheap and unearned is because it is cheap and unearned. Like, it comes out of nowhere. Like, it's not hard to scare someone with a loud noise and a scary face in front of you that you don't expect. But what's interesting about Five Nights at Freddy's is that if you're good at the game, if you're playing it correctly, you'll never encounter that. You don't get jump scares in that game when you're playing it to win. It's only when you lose that the game punishes you with a jump scare. So I think what makes it so effective is the fact that you know it's coming. And that actually makes jump scares better when you're anticipating the jump scare rather than just being surprised by its existence, period.
It's interesting because I was kind of falling under the category that all jump scares are bad. All jump scares are cheap. But I agree with that.
No, I definitely agree that they can be earned. If a jump scare is used effectively, I think it's a pretty good tool for horror.
Yeah, I think most people get it wrong, but it's definitely something that can be used correctly.
It's a double-edged sword with the bad edge much, much larger and more unbalanced than the other.
Right.
Anyway, so let's get to the movies. So, Patrick, I know that you have quite a bit of fondness for the Blair Witch Project.
Correct.
So let's start talking about that one. Rudy, did you get a chance to rewatch this recently, or are you going off memory for this one?
I'm going off memory.
Okay.
Didn't get to fully rewatch it. I remember really liking it when I first watched it and being creeped out by it. I mean, especially the ending, which was very new and novel at the time. Like, the whole movie felt like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Blair Witch Project came out at a time when I was, let's say, gullible in early high school. And this was at a time, nowadays we have a term called, viral, but that didn't exist. Things like ARGs are something that we now consciously are aware of, and companies are designing around that. And the Blair Witch pioneered all of that stuff. That was at the forefront in an accidental way, because with the Blair Witch Project, they sold it as, oh, this is a thing that actually happened. And, I was old enough to know, like, they wouldn't put a thing into theaters where you watch some kids die. That seems like a thing that wouldn't happen. But the conceit was sold well enough in the film and in the marketing that there was at least like a half fraction in your brain that allowed you to kind of get into that world and buy it a little bit that made me just fall in love with that film. I mean, at the time, I hated it. But in retrospect, I fell in love with it because, the characters were incredibly believable. It was found footage, but it didn't feel forced. They had a good conceit for it. Like, just everything about that film, top to bottom, including the ending, which is just all-time top 5, probably top 3 endings to a horror film. Just, because constantly throughout that film, and the ending punctuates it, they just pull punches. They don't actually give you the money shots that every other horror film. I think if you gave that script to 10 directors, 10 out of 10, because I don't think that anyone would have the restraint, would have shown you the witch, would have shown you all these other things that you think the audience, quote unquote, wants to see, but in fact not seeing them is exactly what made that film so scary.
And back to like the during the time, you mentioned the ARGs, but also like the internet wasn't what it was back then, so it was way harder to verify. And you're like you said, like in the back of your head, like this is something. Like there was no maybe you had Fangora or like magazines, but there was really no way where you could look it up and like, is this real or is this not? Like, it was much easier to pull that kind of thing off back then.
Yeah, and there, you could go to, I guess, like IMDb, like there was no BuzzFeed or something that was going to tell you like, hey, this is all BS, by the way. Like, there was just enough doubt there, even though rationally it made no sense. That I don't know. It totally worked for me.
So I was like 10 years old when it came out, and I remember it being a huge deal that the lead actress of the movie was in like some Jason Biggs romantic comedy not too short afterwards, and everyone felt like duped and cheated. I just remember like the era of that was also happening a little bit just after Blair Witch, where everybody was like, "What the fuck? Now I know it's not fake."
Yeah,
now I know it's fake.
That would be a message board thread these days.
Yeah.
But I totally see what you're saying, and I remember seeing those conversations where people were kind of disappointed when they would see those characters pop up somewhere else because they just bought into it so whole cloth. But I think that's a testament to the effectiveness of that film, is that if you can inspire people to be disappointed in that way, that means you made something pretty special.
Yeah, and I presume you know the story about how that film got made, right? And as far as them basically torturing the actors to...
I mean, like the hearing the bits. I had the pleasure of interviewing Eduardo Sanchez, who was one of the co-directors on the Blair Witch Project last year, I believe, which was a total pleasure. Super nice guy, and he was more than happy to indulge in my dumb fanboying about that film. And yeah, I mean, him telling me about how they would, and this is common knowledge, but that they would slip notes to some of the actors to tell them, lose the map today, right? So that wasn't in the script necessarily. Mm-hmm. They would come up with things on the fly and tell the actors hey, you're going to disappear for the day, and then the other actors just had to roll with it. And I think that's a testament to all three of them that were in that film. I couldn't name any of the actors in that film because they didn't really go on to do much else, but in that film, in that context, I mean, it works.
Yeah, and it gets real visceral reactions out of them, which I think is it's something very unique for a horror movie. You're seeing people actually scared instead of pretending to be scared.
Right, exactly.
Because they were...
A quick digression.
Mm-hmm.
It was about Eduardo Sanchez, and because we're talking about found footage, he directed one of the segments in VHS 2, which I know a lot of people really liked. Did you watch VHS 2, Patrick?
Yes, VHS 1 was great. VHS 2 was like half great, and then I heard so many bad things about VHS 3 that I just skipped it entirely.
That's all.
We're watching Viral in 2 weeks?
Yeah, and I had seen it earlier this year. But his was the Ride in the Park, the POV of the zombie cyclist. And
I think that was probably the standout
that
one
was good.
From VHS 2, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that one was... I don't know if it was typical horror, but it was poignant, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was like a good add-in to zombie lore, or like it was the standout for most critics on that. I liked the highs of VHS 2, where VHS 1 was more consistent.
Mm-hmm. VHS 2 had a real low though. That fucking Alien one.
I thought the Alien one was fine.
I hate the
That's
Alien
Jason
one.
Eisner, the director of Hobo with a Shotgun, so I was a fan of it. I was okay with it.
Okay. I thought that one was by far the worst one.
If you thought that was low, you will see new lows on VHS Viral, sir.
Oh, I've heard.
Look forward to that.
I've heard that has the lowest lows by a wide margin.
So yeah, we have that to look forward to.
But we have Qui-Gon to balance that one out, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's true.
So where were we?
Blair Witch.
Oh yeah. So
Blair Witch.
Yeah. So in addition to those cues and stuff, they were like, the people in charge were the ones making the noise and stuff outside the tent without the actors knowing. And there's one point where they're running, and the girl says, "What the fuck is that?" or "What the hell is that?" And there's apparently a person.
It's one of them. It's probably like the titular line in the Blair Witch, both from the trailer and from the film itself. And I think you can't. Yeah, right. It was actually one of the crew that had a
sheet over him or something.
Right, and he just kind of like reflected off the light of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's such an amazing touch, because like her blood curdling scream, like I mean even right now, like it gives me shivers to think about.
Yeah, And there's also the fact that they were apparently giving them less and less food as film went on, so they were going to be more irritable and on edge the whole time.
Why not?
It almost seems pretty cruel of a thing to do to these. They're basically just student actors that they found, pretty much, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. I mean, they made that movie for basically nothing, so my assumption is that, that was part of it.
It seems like something that they couldn't get away with nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. I would imagine that there's the slightly higher standards at this point.
Yeah, but even without like the viral marketing and stuff, I watched a couple days ago. This movie's still super, super tense like the whole time, regardless of any bad acting they did. Or I was kind of terrified for the whole runtime of that thing.
Yeah, and I think it holds up remarkably well.
One thing I didn't remember is that they were hauling around canisters and big film cameras and that. And I didn't realize that how late into the game camcorders came into prominence.
Yeah.
Which makes this kind of even more amazing that they had these guys hauling around all this fucking equipment to do this thing.
Yeah, and I think they, they rented those cameras from, like, their local college or something like that. Like, I don't think they owned all of that stuff.
Yeah, and because, most of the movie, they were like, the cameras are going to be late, guys. We need to be back at the car.
Right. And, I think it's also, for the ending of that film, I've never gone back and, I own the Blu-ray of the Blair Witch Project, but when they put out that updated version, and I talked about this with Eduardo Sanchez in our conversation last year, is that, they went back and they shot additional endings, right? So the ending that's in the film was was not in the script, or they wanted to do something more ambitious, but they couldn't shoot what they had in the script, and the script was going to be, there was a weird altar, and there was one where they showed some sort of creature, and they shot those endings, and they're in the Blu-ray version. And they screened them for people, and the reaction was just much more muted than watching. I think Josh is the one who's standing in the corner, and then the camera just falls, and you have no idea what happened, why it happened. And that's the ending that's stuck in the film, just because even though they went and the company that bought up the rights to the film, they went and gave them all the money they wanted to go shoot whatever they wanted, and even though they shot it, it was not nearly as terrifying as what they had done under the constraints. Because I think that's what that makes that film work, is if they had a budget, it would have been far less interesting than what it was. That movie is a direct reaction to working within limitations.
Yeah, it definitely does benefit from not being able to show stuff, which I think is true of a lot of stuff, including Grave Encounters had some moments like that where they would sit down the camera and not show what was happening, they'd just show the aftermath.
Right.
I think that's almost more effective than actually showing what's going on. It leaves more up to your imagination, and your imagination can probably come up with more fucked up things than they can put on camera.
I'm making a generalization here, but I think a lot of people weren't really imaginative in the 90s, so that's why you had a lot, I think the movie was still, even though it was super successful, it was kind of divisive, where most people did see this as, just a bunch of assholes running around in the woods, or this is boring, it's not showing anything, there's nothing happening, where the ambiguity and having to bring your own imagination to the movie, especially during that time, people weren't totally on board, but then I could be totally wrong because the movie was iconic and a huge success. But I remember that also being the people who were saying that were just as loud as the fans of the movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Found footage has and always will be somewhat divisive in terms of how people react to it.
Yeah, I think Blair Witch is the perfect case of a found footage where when it works well, it works really fucking well. And it is what you bring to the movie. It is, like Mike said, what your fucked up imagination, what it fills in the spaces when it's tense and quiet and you're just kind of with these people along this fucked up ride of what is happening next, what the fuck is in that corner. It freaks me the fuck out watching found footage is done really, really well. It's fucking awesome. But being that it's a popular genre now, we're getting more and more found footage that isn't so great.
We're getting a lot of found footage that isn't so great.
Yeah, I think as above, so below. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I feel like that's one where it showed too much, and I was just
yeah, I can see arguments for and against that with that movie. So, you haven't watched Curse of the Blair Witch, right, Rudy?
I did not.
Okay, and Patrick said that he watched it a long time ago.
Well, when I was all wrapped up in the marketing for the Blair Witch, I was watching whatever I could about that film before it actually came out, and Sci-Fi Channel had partnered with the film to really heavily promote it, and so one of the things that before that film came out was that documentary Curse of the Blair Witch, with if I remember correctly, was mostly just made from like extra material they had shot for the film that just didn't, they just shot way too much, and they put together Curse of the Blair Witch from that extra material as a way of kind of delving into the backstory of Coffin Rock and the other events that kind of had happened in that town prior to the events of the film.
Yeah, that's exactly what it seems like. But I think it was pretty good for what it was. It was basically just a 40-minute background information hype piece. It's very, very dry, but it gives pretty good... It basically lays out exactly what the Legend of the Blair Witch is, what was with that murderer guy who would make the kids face the corner. So it said exactly what was going on in that last scene, kind of. It fleshed out the characters, so it made it a little bit easier to care and sympathize with them than it was in the main one, and the full actual movie. But it's like $2 to rent on Amazon. I think it's definitely worth those $2.
Yeah, it gives a lot of context to the movie, and I think it's well made. It's also historically interesting. Mm-hmm. Curse of the Blair Witch went a long way to I think selling that as maybe this feels like a real thing, even if obviously it was not.
Yeah, but I think if you have a chance to watch that before you watch Blair Witch Project, especially if it's your first time for somehow missing it all these years, definitely go ahead and do that. It doesn't really spoil anything, but it's a definitely good hype piece for the movie.
I'll have to check it out. But was it as good as The Dark Secret of M. Night Shyamalan, Sci-Fi's tie-in with The Village that came out in 2004?
I've not seen that or The Village, so I can't speak to that.
You should probably watch The Village. It's super...
I probably should watch The Village.
Weird and rough.
I remember wanting to see that pretty bad.
Also watch I think you can find it on YouTube. It's like the most egotistical, narcissistic thing that they let M. Night Shyamalan do. I don't even remember what his dark secret was, but yeah, that was a thing. That's what the Curse of Blair Witch kind of reminded me of, like hearing about it. I was like, oh, there was this movie tie-in too.
I guess since we mentioned As Above So Below, let's talk about that one. So, Rudy, I gotta say, this movie does not really belong in a horror marathon thing, I don't think.
As Above So Below or
Yeah,
Ghostwatch?
As Above So Below. Ghostwatch absolutely does. That movie's fucking terrifying.
I thought it was really great too, but on As Above So Below, it was weird because like watching Ghostwatch and the WNUF special, and we were talking about Blair Witch, that this just felt so much like a movie. It's Universal Studios, it's legendary, and just like all the special effects that it didn't. I was surprised by my reaction to it because I was looking forward to watching it. That's why I think why we chose it. And I was just like, this is just such a fucking movie. I just couldn't get with it. And it's like, oh, so it's like National Treasure, but found footage, but there's also horror.
I think that if you watch a second time with this in mind, it'll be better. It's straight up not a horror movie. It's basically found footage Indiana Jones with some scary stuff in it.
There's a good 70 minutes of the movie is all just mostly that, like, exploring the cave stuff, which only really has one effective scene, and that's when Benji, the cameraman, is stuck walking through like the narrow part, and it's about to cave in on him.
But man, that scene is so effective.
It's so fucking effective. But even before that, I was like against the movie because there's so much editing. Literally, like the first 30 to 40 minutes of As Above, So Below is the perfect example of how to go wrong with found footage horror or found footage genre in general. Where it's just like so many fucking edits, and it's like made for an ADD audience, where it's just like it gives no time. Where after watching remembering Blair Witch and watching Ghostwatch, I appreciated so much that there wasn't so much fucking editing, and like you could sit with the shots, and it's creepier to stay on a shot. Like the parts in Ghostwatch where they're talking about seeing the ghost in the corner and just leaving it on screen so you could peer in and look, where there is no peering in and looking in As Below, So Below. It's fucking edited to shit. It's edited like it's an action movie.
Yeah.
And so that fucking bothered me to no end. And I was like, this is not how you do found footage. This is how you do a studio movie. But it bothered me so fucking much. And I wanted to like this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it tries a little too hard. Is kind of like its biggest problem. I think there were some effective moments in it, and I really like the premise behind it. I think it's why I kind of wanted to like the film, and I thought it was pretty okay. I think it could have been a whole lot better, and I think that's mostly where I was disappointed with it. Was just like, man, this is a really, really great idea for a film, and then they just kind of botch it. And you're right, and like some of the editing is like just very obvious, and like they're just kind of like cutting and part of what makes the Blair Witch Project work so well, as we talked about, it was like they allow tension to build, right? Like they allow camera angles to linger. Forget the film. It's Bobcat Goldthwait's Bigfoot film from last year.
Willow Creek?
Yes.
I actually haven't watched Willow Creek yet.
So I won't spoil anything, but I will say one of the things that was super effective about Willow Creek is Bobcat allows the camera to linger for just uncomfortably long periods of time. Like there's one shot towards the end of the film that kind of sets up the last sequence where just nothing happens for what feels like an eternity. I mean, I think it actually was like 3 or 4 minutes, and for 3 or 4 minutes in a 90-minute film where just nothing's happening, and you're waiting for the shoe to drop. It's incredibly effective, and that's just not something that As Above, So Below was interested in at all. The moment that things got any calm, it was cut, and maybe it was one of those films where they kind of made it in post. They didn't know what they had, and then you try and put it together when you're in the editing room. But I was disappointed, but I think it's still kind of worth watching, but definitely not worth going out of your way for.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all these things you're saying, but I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more just as kind of a fun movie. The premise is interesting, kind of novel, hasn't been done exactly like this before, and it's got the spectacle that kept me not bored with it, at least.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you get out of the editing, is that it does go in a way that I think it's a movie that if you go in with the right expectations, it will absolutely meet them. And I think if you go in expecting more than that, then that's where you can kind of get yourself into trouble.
Yeah, I think I expected a little bit more.
I'd be interested to see the difference in opinion if you tell one person that it's a horror movie and tell one person that it's a kind of spooky adventure movie, and see what they get out of it.
Yeah, I think most people would like it more if they were told it was a spooky adventure movie.
I get that feeling too, but I think it'd be an interesting thing to find out. I enjoy it, at the very least, as I found it worth a second watching.
Totally.
I started getting with it once they enter the little door, and once they come back through the narrow space and they realize that they've just gone in a circle, or like things start getting crazy. Mm-hmm. That's when I was like, okay, finally. But it took about 40 minutes to get there. It was 40 minutes of rough road to get there. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I kind of love the first person running scene at the very end, where she's just punching those things to get where she's going. That was fucking hilarious. When she's punching those stone demons, I dug that too. It added some levity as she just like almost as she's going out of her way to smack him in the face. So it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the kind of on back to like the Willow Creek stuff and the editing about found footage. Leaving a shot for an uncomfortable amount of time, just like the scene in As Below, so where it's sitting with Benji, the main camera guy, and he's just like panicking while he's feeling that claustrophobia, because I think for most of the film that claustrophobia is missing. It feels like a safe studio movie to me most of the time, so I also didn't have the suspension of disbelief, especially when more CG effects start showing up, again because I had different expectations. But when like what Bobcat did in Willow Creek, when you take time in a scene, when you let something sit and linger and make it uncomfortable for the audience, they do have the potential to get bored, but you are taking control away from them. Where As Above, So Below feels like a movie that's spoon feeding the audience, and leaving them in complete control. When something's edited to shit, it's because they don't trust the fucking audience.
And that doesn't surprise me if that's, if you're, more of a lot of the big budget horror these days, kind of falls into some of those traps, even if they're not found footage. I think that may just be a byproduct of if you're trying to be a blockbuster horror film, your concerns are a little bit different than if you're, happy to just be on, video on demand, going for the exact horror audience. When As Above, So Below, being produced by Legendary, like they're not a company that like tries to do small films, like they're in a business of blockbusters. And, I imagine they looked at things like The Conjuring and said, well, why can't we do one of those? And I think that has more to do with James Wan just being incredibly talented than any horror film being able to come in and succeed at a level beyond just sort of the niche that's interested in those types of films. Because James Wan doesn't always hit it out of the park, but he is far and away, in terms of making films at that scale and for that large of an audience, he is the sort of like the most talented director. He's pretty much up there with Ty West for me, and sort of like whenever he makes something, I will be there immediately.
To be fair, I haven't watched House of the Devil or The Sacrament, but I've got some horror friends who really, really dislike Ty West and think like he had the worst segments in VHS 1 and the worst segment in, I think, the first ABCs of Death.
I mean, I don't know if you could argue that any of the segments in things like ABCs of Death were good. I would think, far and away, most of that is just like total garbage that the only reason you're not upset about it is because it's over in about a minute.
Right.
I don't think The Sacrament is particularly good, but I don't know that. I mean, The Innkeepers is fantastic. I don't know how you couldn't watch The Innkeepers and enjoy that film.
I have friends who watched The Innkeepers and hated it so much. I mean, isn't that the one where Ty West had to go on the internet and defend it because he said the sound design wasn't done well and that the only way to enjoy the movie is playing it super loud? And he felt like most people didn't have the right setups, and that's why most people did not like The Innkeepers.
I have not followed the Twitter tirades of Ty West, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I suppose.
But I do want to watch The Sacrament and House of the Devil and give them a fair shake. Again, also, I know a lot of people really enjoyed him getting an arrow through the head in You're Next.
Yeah, and You're Next is a great movie.
I like You're Next quite a bit.
It was okay. I think I bought into the hyperbole, or it got hyped up too much for me. I did like Adam Wingard's follow-up, The Guest, a whole lot. I loved The Guest.
Yeah, The Guest is a great film.
I have not seen that one, so I can't comment. I do have...
It's on Netflix. Watch it. It's okay.
Maybe I will. Is it still there? After the great culling? Okay. I have feelings about The Sacrament. Mostly negative, but I'll let you watch that first. Yeah, that movie upset me a lot.
Thing As Is Above, So Below. The scene with the flaming car, like, I enjoyed the surreality of it, and then that's when, like, again, the CG effects and everything was just too much. It was just the unconvincing CG, and it just like it brought a new level of stupid to me in the movie, and again took me completely out of it when that scene came up.
Yeah, CG and found footage is a really dangerous tool because it goes directly against what you're trying to, the form of found footage. The found footage is meant to be something captured by home video cameras, and the reason it's scary is because you can you can understand what it'd be like to hold something like that and watch that footage. The moment you introduce CG, you have to be incredibly careful because I think it can go wrong very fast.
Yeah, and like two of my favorite movies that we watched this week, Noroi and Grave Encounters, well, great movies, have some really, really dodgy CG in them. Do you guys have anything else to say about As Above, So Below? I mean, it's kind of a come and gone movie. There's not a whole lot to say about it besides what happened in the plot, I don't think.
No, but I think if you can watch for cheap, I think you should check it out. Yeah,
it's on. You don't need to turn it off. It's not terrible.
Definitely not.
Yeah, there's worse found footage movies out there.
Oh,
and as far as like a mid-budget, big studio type of found footage horror movie, it does provide thrills, I suppose, and like you said, Mike, watching it within the mindset that it's not a horror movie and more like a spooky adventure movie is a lot better.
Yeah, I think I might have enjoyed it even more the second time because I knew that. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect the first time.
Yeah, it's such a movie, and you have to
Yeah.
go in with that mindset of like that. And yeah, I was not prepared for that.
But yeah, that's As Above, So Below. And I think that's all the time we have for Patrick for talking about movies. He will be back with us at the end of the podcast to share a short story, though, so please stay tuned for that. Thanks, Patrick, again for joining us. And let's get on with the rest of the podcast, then. Okay, so...
Yeah, we have a lot to go through.
Yeah, we do. So, which one do you want to take on next?
I'll say let's go with The Curse.
Okay, Noroi.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this movie? I rewatched this one. A lot of these movies this week for me are rewatches. I don't remember if I mentioned earlier. And this
just a few of them.
This and Ghostwatch are the ones that I feel like they got even better on the second watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because like especially with this genre, once you know what's going on, then you kind of have a little bit more freedom to look around at what's immediately happening, so you can kind of see side details that you may have missed before. Especially with this one, because this Koji Shiraishi likes putting little things moving in the background, little hints and stuff.
Yeah, Noroi is pretty dense with like stuff and information. I did find it really entertaining all the way through, and I didn't get lost on it, which is a surprise to me because I usually get pretty lost in J-horror, or even most Japanese genre type movies. Like on our one of our Zero episodes, we talked about Dead or Alive and how like that didn't make sense most of the movie. But this in Noroi, like you could actually break it up into like little vignettes. It felt way more like an anthology film than I was expecting.
Kinda, yeah. With just that it was showing the story through different visual media formats rather than just camcorder stuff.
Yeah, and it was following those specific characters for a little set of time. Ghostwatch, I feel like I got everything I needed in the first watch. I liked it a lot, but I'm not sure it's one that I'm going to revisit too often.
You watched that one in pieces, though, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It took me about like three separate times to get all the way through it.
I would definitely sit and watch that one in one sitting anytime you get a chance. Because when you watch in one sitting, it builds up the tension really, really nicely. And then just kind of everything goes to shit, and it's pretty fucking scary. Especially if you're the type to watch it like in a pitch black room with the volume up.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that I found most intense in Ghostwatch was like the infrared stuff. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit later, but it definitely built up a lot of like tension and dread, which is good. But I didn't find it as scary as I thought it was gonna be because I had heard so much about it, and this one had been hyped up for me over the years. This is like a true like hidden gem and found footage, especially one that was so early. You know, especially for the time, it's even more impressive.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
I think it's a very, very scary movie. If that's one of I think it's a movie that if I would have seen it as a kid, it would have fucked me up real, real bad. But we'll get to that in the Ghostwatch section.
Yeah.
Or when we're focusing on Ghostwatch.
Right.
So, what in specific did you like about Noroi? Noroi is often, or maybe not often, but at least when it came out, it was kind of special for a J-horror in that it's much longer than the average J-horror, which they almost all clock in around 90 minutes. This one's at or maybe a little longer than 2 hours. I can't remember. And also, it's way, way, way more complex, both character-wise and plot-wise, than the typical J-horror movie. There's a lot of characters.
There is a lot of characters, but luckily, and again, I'm surprised that this was my reaction to it. It didn't get like lost up its own ass in mythology, which even a lot of like Western horror films do. That kind of like the exposition of it and the backstory kind of take away from what's going on and tend to be like the most boring parts of the movie for me. Like, you haven't watched Sinister yet, right?
No. Not yet.
No, we're gonna watch that soon. And then Sinister 2 came out earlier this year, where it's like, you know, the more you delve into the monster, the less scary it gets. What did I like most about Noroi? I liked its ambition. Besides it being complex, it's super ambitious and pulls it off. Yeah, and it's a really well done documentary found footage horror movie. And oh man, what like? I
think the CG that it uses isn't great. I kind of think it's fine in this because one, it's a Japanese movie, and those aren't really known for good CG in general. But also, it's not really high budget, and it doesn't ever really dwell on any of the bad CG. It's just kind of there and gone.
Right. Yeah, it goes by very quickly.
It almost helps it look even more unnatural, which I kind of like. I think he does very well with what he's given.
Especially like near the end, stuff with like Kano, without giving too much away. That shot really surprised me, and it wasn't like a cheap jump scare. It was like pretty unsettling and weird.
Yeah.
And then like it was CG used to enhance the story and make you go like, oh, I get the worms and all the other stuff that's explained throughout the movie. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's tension, but this got me in the sweet spot of dread. I really love movies that just build up a sense of dread and a sense of like something apocalyptic happening.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of conspiratorial. Like there's all this shit going on with the village and the dam and all this like fucked up history. And something like the sense of some kind of like unstoppable horrific doom coming, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Like the little touches of things getting crazier and crazier as it goes along, like Mariko and the wife in the house where she freaks out and groans, and then the pigeons start hitting the window. That was like that
made me jump a bunch.
That was pretty great. Yeah. The word for me isn't tension, but I love dread, and I think Noroi had a good sense of dread, of which I don't see a whole lot in J-horror movies. Granted, my experience of J-horror is mostly the ghost movies that were super popular in the mid-2000s. Most of the stuff that I would consider the sideline of J-horror is other genre movies from Japan, so stuff like Mutant Girl Squad, which are more like splatter movies. So Japanese splatter movies is what I watch most of the time. I haven't actually had a lot of experience with J-horror, and so far this is the best one that I've seen, because I wouldn't consider Mike J-horror. He's his own brand. He's his own genre.
Yeah. He's definitely, if anywhere, he's gonna fall in the splatter category.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen Audition, but from what I've heard about Audition, that might fit in horror rather than splatter. But...
Yeah. And then it did start. 1999 torture porn.
I'll get to Audition eventually.
It's good. It's worth watching. It's pretty crazy.
But if you like Dread, you'll like the other Shiraishi movies, I think. We'll be watching Occult and Cult next week. And I just watched Occult last night, and that definitely has the apocalyptic kind of dread thing going for it.
I dig that so much, and I think Noroi pulled it off.
And Cult does too, but I do think Cult is the weakest of his 4 horror mockumentaries. He has some. He has some other he's a couple more fucked up ones, but I'm not counting that really as in the Supernatural series that he has here.
The other thing that was pretty great was just the attention to detail and the stuff like the Japanese variety show segments that are in there.
Yeah, I like those.
They're also really well done. Yeah, it just feels so.
And it changes it up so it doesn't get boring.
No, it does not.
Because there's a pretty good reason why most found footage movies aren't 2 hours long like this. Because the camcorder footage gets kind of grating to watch for that long.
Right, and so there's enough variation going on in there that it's easier to sit through, and I was surprised. That's what makes it pretty. Great is that there's a lot going on, but you don't get lost in it, and you don't get bored of the mythology. It keeps you interested and intrigued throughout the whole thing. Like when Kano brings up her drawing of the
baby mask,
the Katamuga. The baby mask.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah. Holy shit. That creeped me out then more than any of the if there was, I don't remember too many jump scares in the movie.
No, there was
that one.
There's maybe one. I can't even think of what it would be.
A lot of them have to do with the psychic freaking out on people.
There's a couple the Descent style scares. When they're panning the night vision camera around and the golem dude just kind of chilling there. They have a couple that are like that, without the attack at the end.
Yeah, in the beginning with the little boy just peeking through the window. Wasn't much of a jump scare, but there.
But it's creepy. And even all these things, they portray the story. They're not just a thing to be scary. They're moving the narrative along. And I think that Shidaishi's very, very good at, I don't know about showing, not telling, but showing at least as much as he's telling. Because there's plenty of exposition, but it's not the exposition solely driving the narrative.
Yeah, it doesn't get bogged down in it, and it doesn't feel like you said, it doesn't feel like he's just telling us a bunch of stuff and then not showing it, because everything he tells us, we eventually see and come to understand it and put into context. And he's pretty great at connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to follow the characters, who's who, what their relation was to each other. I mean, he does it all in under 2 hours, and that's fucking awesome. That's fucking crazy.
And I'm pretty sure the only dot that wasn't connected is the one that he didn't want, the very end one. The one that gives the biggest shiver, I guess. Which is what happened to the boy at the end. He's the only one that we don't know anything about what happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then Kobayashi, too, but that's part of the thing.
Kobayashi? But...
Right, was that his name?
Yeah.
I'm totally butchering his name.
I have the names written in Japanese on my paper, because it was faster for me to write, so I had to take a second to find it. But yeah, we kind of know about him. He's out there doing stuff, whereas the boy, he's just out there being real fucked up, presumably.
Really creepy.
And for all you know, he's somehow adapted to normal life out there, but probably not.
Going through the foster cycle, house to house, spreading, the curse.
Yeah. And the design of those baby masks is really fucking creepy.
It is really fucking creepy.
There wasn't any really creature design per se in this, nor is there really in any of his things. There's imagery that is creepy, but there's no real creature in anything, as far as I remember. Besides maybe a weird squiggle thing.
Yeah, the worms and stuff, ectoplasmic worms.
He likes his squiggle monsters.
Does he? Yeah.
Yeah, and in all 4 of his supernatural mockumentaries, they're squiggle monsters.
So that's his thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's an effective... It's something that's not hard to do with CG and have it look not terrible. Mm-hmm. It's definitely alien enough to be off-putting. So I can see why he does that.
Yeah, and he doesn't, you don't really even see them as, tentacles or anything like that. It's its own, the way he describes them and portrays them. You're just this is fucking weird. So 2 scenes that fucked me up were when they first show the quick flash of Jinko freaking out wearing the fucking mask, wearing the demon mask, and you just see the brief glimpse of her teeth going through the mask. I thought at first I had no idea that was a mask, and I thought that was just something fucked up happened to her face, and that's fucking scary. It was still scary as it was revealed. And then when they go into her apartment and find out what happened to her, and find all the shit that's in there, like the pigeons and the way that inside that apartment looks, I was like, that is really well. That creeped me the fuck out. That was really well done. Everything's sneaking in there, and I like that there was no jump scares during that scene. It's all just in the fucked up imagery you see when you enter into that apartment or that little house.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who this character was. Mikaishi. I don't remember who that was. It was one of the interviews that he did near the end with the people who moved out of the village, and that's one of the 2 things that really... Oh, I think it might have been the guy that, when he was asking about Junko, the guy just kind of looked at him and slammed the door in his face. I think it was that guy.
The working class type guy with
no.
jersey tracksuit?
No, is the lady after that for when he asked a question about Junko and she just kind of stood up and left was what got me. I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also when they were looking for the apartment where they said Kana was, and Osawa came out and just kind of grabbed a pigeon and went back inside.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that was good. Yeah, that was super, super creepy, super unsettling.
One thing I liked about cinematography is a lot of the time there's a lot really smooth transitions between the different visual mediums. So it'd be the camcorder footage like straight into variety show without like a hard cut per se.
Yeah, the segues, I mean, they segue you into them really good. It flows really nicely because you hear like maybe the other characters talking, or they talk about the dates or what was about to happen and cut to that. So every segue didn't feel like a rough transition and didn't go like, well, where the fuck are we now? I'm lost. You just kind of went along with it, and he was really good at easing you into something like totally new and different. The kind of like the variety show with the psychic games with the kids and stuff, which felt like its own little short movie kind of plopped into the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and then again, all these things are important. There's like not really a whole lot of unnecessary detail going on in this movie.
Nope. Which do you think? I mean, we'll get to it in our J Horror Week, which is starting today, really.
Yeah. Or I started yesterday.
I mean, do you think most J Horror does get like they get kind of bogged down in a bunch of unnecessary stuff? Because I think
sometimes. I mean, I can't of the J Horror I watch. There's not too many that I like super dislike. The only one that really comes to mind is Chakushinari, One Missed Call. I think that movie is super fucking... Okay. I think that movie's super, super dull. Or at least was when I saw it. Uh-huh. And everybody with me that saw it agreed. So it might... I don't know if it's just me. Right. I don't remember exactly what it was, why I thought it was boring. So I'm not sure. His movies...
I think you're not alone in that.
Yeah. Koji Shiraishi's are my favorite modern J-horror, though. And he kind of is pretty similar in all of them, I think. I wouldn't call any one of those 4 that I've watched bad. I haven't watched his not as much mockumentary ones. He's did Carved, or in Japanese Kuchisaki Onna, and he did Teki Teki 1 and maybe 2. I haven't watched those yet, so I can't speak to those. But his 4 mockumentary ones I like quite a bit, and they're all very to the point. I guess they're all the same pacing for the most part.
Okay. I just like that it didn't... I mean, it's all done in the found footage documentary style. It is like you're watching a kind of retrospective on what happened, so it's more feasible. Again, I like that not overused creepy kid imagery.
Yeah.
So I was fine with the little boy and how he turned out and stuff, and done differently because I'm kind of over pale-faced young ghost kids. So I know we're probably going to get quite a bit of that starting next week. So we'll see how
going to get at least 2 because we're watching Ju-on 1 and 2. And Catboy is a central figure in those. Although I think he might have spawned a lot of that, but
yeah, I think so. Well, we'll see how we do it. I'll do with Catboy.
Yeah, Catboy's great. Another thing about this movie is before I started the rewatch, I wasn't like looking forward to rewatching it, but then once I got in it, it's so engrossing like from the get-go that I was back in, like sucked completely in like almost immediately. He's very, very good at setting up a mystery right at the beginning that's so compelling that you don't want to stop watching.
Yeah, and he doesn't like front load you with information because it all happens in the beginning of the stuff, like with the fire and what we know happened to the main character and stuff, but you still kind of like, it goes by so quick that you're still with it and you don't really think about, what happened to him until you get to that point. Like when it's revealed that he adopted the kid, I was like, holy fucking shit, oh my god. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you go like, oh, this kid needs adopting by me? Oh.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastically executed movie all the way through.
So I can't wait to watch Koji's other films.
Yeah, I almost feel like after done with this month, we should just watch the last one of these 4 we haven't watched and just talk about that one, just complete saga, which is also available on YouTube. So, did you watch it? Did you watch it on YouTube?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because I've heard that it's better on YouTube because it's a little bit lower fidelity, so it's not as crisp. So it kind of looks like a thing you found somewhere, like in the trash, and just pop in your VCR.
Right. I think jumping ahead, but I feel like that's what happened with the WNUF special. The YouTube quality of it really added to it being looking super shitty, and that's what made it awesome.
Well, even the full copy of WNUF looked like that, I think, on purpose, basically.
Right, it did, and they pulled it off.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I mean, this is just, I think, for me so far, this is the template of like a J-horror ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's done as a found footage, like the mythology is great, the imagery of the demon is creepy as fuck. The exposition scenes had me drawn in when the historian brings out the like scroll that explained how they what they had to feed to the demon to pacify him and shit, and all the drawings on that was like, oh fuck, that was. Again, all that shit was super creepy and super effective, and like, I liked. We'll get into this more. I had like nitpicky shit, but it had to do with like the sound in found footage movies. Who the fuck is putting the score in found footage movies? If we were to do the whole suspension of disbelief and shit, at least Noroi had that thing. It's a cliche for found footage movies, but I mean Noroi's 2005, so we can't put any blame on it. But that low rumbling like bass sound, that subwoofer sound, that Paranormal Activity mined really well.
But also
those started coming out.
Noroi, the conceit is that you're watching an edited video of it, so it's not necessarily something that's on the footage. It's something that whoever edited all this together, be it Kobayashi or the guy who's presenting at the beginning, put in there.
Right. I mean, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about like score and music in found footage and the low rumbling bass sound?
I'm against non-diegetic movie or music in found footage, but if there's a conceit that makes it there, like Noroi has, it being an edited thing, then it's fine.
Mm-hmm. I had a problem with the music in the Bay. It really, really bothered me. Or some of the soundtrack choices in the Bay.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was an edited thing.
Yeah.
It's not like, I guess they said Blair Witch was edited too, but that didn't have any soundtrack at all.
I don't know. I think filmmakers being a little bit liberal with their rules.
As Above had non-diegetic soundtrack.
Yeah, it did.
And that was something that threw me off. I liked the weird wailing cult in there. I liked when that was the soundtrack at the very beginning. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yes.
But if they could just kept it like that and had them show up or something more doing their weird wailing thing, that would have improved the movie, I think.
Yeah, they only really used it in that one scene when they two scenes. They find him, and then they used it when he's stuck in the rocks.
Yeah.
Or in the bones.
I mean, they were still right there, though.
The one thing about it, I forgot to mention earlier that in As Above, So Below, it had a really effective jump scare, which is that creepy girl with the eyes.
When she pushes him down.
When he falls down.
That was a very good one.
That startled me. I was startled.
Yeah. See, jump scares are good when they're good.
When they're good, and I did really like that one.
Jump scares they're very peaky. They're great when they're good, and they're terrible when they're bad, and there's not really any middle ground at all.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the middle ground's like when they're not effective, or they're not actually a scare, but that doesn't happen very often.
Right, like cats and dogs barking.
Yeah.
Cats jumping on a window or something like
now,
that. Get a lot of those.
What is your absolute favorite jump scare ever?
You know what? I don't know if it counts as a jump scare, but I would say one of my favorite surprising, like, holy shit moments, and it's from my classic, one of my personal favorite movies. It's in The Thing. When his chest opens up.
Yeah, that one.
And
that
it's totally unexpected. Yeah.
I was...
that's the one that comes to the right top of my head.
I was at a Boy Scout ski trip, and I brought The Thing with me. And we were on the couch in the bottom of the chalet or whatever we were, watching that. And that scene happens, and the person next to me on the couch disappeared from the couch and ended up like 10 feet behind it. Just because he jumped so much from that scene. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
because I was the only one who'd seen the movie, so no one else knew anything that was coming.
It's always great to put the thing to show to a bunch of unsuspecting people, and then have them get caught up and paranoid with it.
Yeah.
Like the editing in that scene is perfect. Because it distracts you with him trying to revive him, and so much shit is going on. Like Kurt Russell's arguing with the other two dudes, and then that happens, and yeah, it was like, to me, that's probably one of the best jump scares or best surprising moments in a horror film. Did you end up watching The Conjuring?
No, I did not.
You should watch it.
I should. That has stuff about the Warrens in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so I gotta say, fuck the Warrens. Just throwing that out.
I've heard a lot of people do not like them, and that they're are they snake oil salesmen?
Yeah, they're gigantic scam artists that have said as much, and yet people don't really give a shit for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite parts of WNUF, how they kind of took the piss out of them.
Yeah, WNUF takes a piss out of a lot of things.
Yeah,
pretty much everything.
I gotta say, my favorite jump or surprise scare is from The Descent. The part, like right at the beginning, when she's just kind of staring out the window, and then bam, all of a sudden, copper pipe.
Yeah, pipe to the face.
Great. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all to preclude that was going to happen. No foreshadowing, no nothing. It just piped the face. No reason. The first half of that movie has some pretty fucking good scares. Because possibly one of my other favorite scares is the one we were talking about earlier, where they're panning the camera and that guy's just chilling there.
just kneeling, munching on.
I've watched that with a group too, and that one's gotten people jumping pretty far.
That was so good. That's so weird that it's such a one-off movie. Did you follow Neil Marshall's work afterwards, or get into any of his other movies?
Did not.
Dog Soldiers is super rough. Not very good.
Okay.
Doomsday is really fantastic. If you like your post-apocalyptic Mad Max homage movies, I thought Doomsday is super entertaining. So he hasn't really done anything horror-wise just as good. And he also did Centurion, which is sort of like The Warriors crossed with 300 with Michael Fassbender. Super violent, super actiony, really effective as well. But again, not horror. So it's weird that it seemed like he had a one-off really great horror film and hasn't returned to that yet.
Well, I mean, it might be that he doesn't want to be kind of pigeonholing himself, or he wants to refresh his juices. I don't know. He has his reasons, I'm sure, why he hasn't done it.
Yeah. He also directed, I think, the last 2 episodes of the 2nd season of Game of Thrones.
Okay. I think we've just about squeezed all the juice we can get out of Noroi without just straight up discussing the plot.
Yeah. I don't think we want to go too much into detail there.
I was very pleased that we rewatched it.
Yeah, I was glad to finally sit down and watch it, because I had heard so much about it, and this is a movie where I've heard so much about it, and it totally lived up to my expectations of it, and whether there was hype or hyperbole about it. This was I dug it quite a bit, so that's good. And I can't even really explain to you why it did so, other than it's a good fucking movie.
Yeah, it's really, really great. The only maybe negative I can think of is that it's 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's long, but again, you don't feel the length. You just have to take the time for it. Yeah.
Want to talk about WNUF? I guess maybe
WNUF or Ghostwatch. Which one's a good segue? Does that matter? Do we? Does the order matter?
No, not really.
All right, let's do WNUF.
Okay, so initially I was pretty disappointed by WNUF, but as I've been thinking about it over the week, I think I've warmed to it somewhat. I think it might be something I'd rewatch. It might be better on a rewatch, because I wasn't aware of the fact that it was a horror comedy, I guess, when I went into it. So I spent most of the movie waiting for the other shoe to drop, and instead I just got a punchline.
Yeah.
Like, one criticism I do have, like, straight up, is I think it was way too into its main conceit. I think the commercials that it had were too disruptive to the narrative.
Yeah, there's a lot of commercials. A ton of commercials.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of my notes, I have written down, I love these commercials. And then near the bottom, I have maybe way too many commercials, guys. In addition to the commercials took a weird turn at the end. I don't remember what that turn was, but apparently they did.
It fit in a lot of like parody and satire there, and maybe even the director's like political beliefs and stuff, and his thoughts about like Middle America or whatever, wherever exactly WNF is taking place. Kind of just like that kind of small, sad corner of America that's actually most of America, like what our public access shows are like, or what our local commercials were like.
This was kind of an anthology film. It was directed by a bunch of different people.
Mm-hmm. So that's so weird.
Yeah, I guess everybody maybe wrote or directed a different commercial, maybe.
There was plenty of them.
Yeah, we actually have, I don't know exactly what his involvement was, but somebody who was involved with the production is following Game Kiwi on Twitter. So,
cool.
Mr. Jimmy George, WNUF's pretty good. It has problems. And we'll list them out. If you're going to do something else with WNUF, please keep them in mind. Thank you for following us. So this had an interesting marketing campaign too. Apparently, they left behind VHS copies of this movie at different locations, including apparently they have VHS conventions. I didn't know this. That seemed insane to me.
I read about that as well. Yeah.
But apparently they left copies of this. They also redubbed this through various VCRs to degrade the quality, to make it look authentic, which I think was a very nice touch, and they succeeded very well. There
is a ton of attention to detail in WNUF, because it looks so much like something from the time. It is, It's, I think, about WNUF, like, it is very obviously a labor of love. So even, I think we both had problems with it. At the end of the day, it's very clear that it's a complete labor of love with its, so exacting, so accurate attention to detail of those commercials and its main conceit.
I just think it got too caught up in doing that to tell its story.
It got very caught up. It's a very like Peter Jackson-y level attention to detail of it in a weird comparison, but that's what I come up with in my head for it.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember what I was going to say. Ending was very much kind of a come and gone sort of thing. It just kind of happens in the last couple moments and then the movie's over. I feel like there's a whole lot of build up and not a lot of payoff. Like I said, it's just the punchline.
Yeah, it's a punchline, and it reminded me a lot of like the worst segments of VHS. I think it would make a good if you were to create like a kind of showing of VHS. I think WNF would fit in there pretty perfectly, at least with the first one. You're right. I think what happened with the ending is that so much of the movie is like sly comedy and satire that when the dark, scary, like bad shit happens, that it's a little too late.
Yeah, I think too much is the theme of my criticisms of this movie. Like, also with the reporter guy at the beginning, I was loving just how much of a dick he was, but as it went on, I'm like, okay, guys, this is going a little bit too heavy with this. It's kind of lost its charm here.
Yeah, I think it probably is something that might have been better served as like a 30-minute type movie, something a little bit shorter. Like, Kung Fury was even a 30-minute movie, and that's something that they were super dedicated to the style and humor of what they were trying to do. And that, and did you watch Kung Fury? Did you hear about it?
I did not.
It's just like this, like I think it's like Swedish parody of like 80s kung fu movies.
Oh yeah, I did.
It was very self-consciously ridiculous. But eventually they had a trailer. Eventually they came out with a 30-minute full movie, and that was the right length for it. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. Where WNUF at like 8 as a full 80-minute feature was kind of like filled with stuff. Like I wasn't expecting. I knew it was going to be a comedy. I wasn't expecting as much comedy for like it to be basically 90% comedy, 10% horror. I was expecting things to get crazier and more fucked up. I mean, there's so many of the commercials that you'd think that it would start getting weirder and crazier, and the commercials would start turning and stuff. And that's what I was expecting. That was the shoe I was waiting for it to drop. So it was pretty disappointing that it didn't go there.
I had always heard it mentioned like as a companion piece to go with Ghostwatch, so I was kind of expecting like an American Ghostwatch. So that's where my disappointment stems from.
Yeah, it's about as close as it gets. It's more probably in line with like Blair Witch, where ultimately the horror is not supernatural, which is without giving most of it away. Yeah.
Did you watch Cursed all? I forget.
It's no.
Okay, because in Curse, they kind of imply that it's either somebody very, very meticulous that did it, or it was actually supernatural. Because they show where they found the tapes and the film reels in Curse. And it was basically buried in the foundation of an old house that is like hundreds of years old. And they said that there's like a retaining wall foundation type thing around it, and they basically said these reels and film were either here since the house was demolished hundreds of years ago, or the killer took the time to put these stones back exactly as they were originally.
Yeah, it's adding the eerie element to it, which is kind of funny because one of the things I watched is a kind of companion piece to Blair Witch, going off memory, but the CinemaSins YouTube video of it, where they just kind of nitpicked the movie to death. And one of the things they nitpicked was where the footage was found from and who edited it, and that kind of thing. CinemaSins is probably like one of the worst things ever. It really seems to miss the point of movies.
Yeah.
It's one of those like not very well done parodies. It's obviously intended as parodies, but it does come off so accurately as like somebody nitpicking a movie to death to the point that it's just not fun or
really
funny.
It's annoying.
Yeah, it's really. Have you seen a couple of those?
I've seen a couple, yeah. Like no one likes these people. No one wants to be friends with you. Pull that stick out of your ass. Learn to have fun, dude. It's right here in the dictionary under F.
Yeah, I think it's for people who think they're above certain movies or above any movie, that they feel like, oh, this movie doesn't work for me, so I am the smart one. This movie's not smart. I'm smarter than this movie.
Yeah,
so I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
I was fine with the J.K. Simmons anchor dude. I don't think his shtick. It was due to the runtime that I think it played on too long, but I was fine with him being a hilarious dick the whole time. And then, I mean, he gets his just desserts at the end. Not that he fully deserved it. I was more disappointed of the reveal of the payoff. It just seems so, like I said, very VHS-y to me.
It took them way too long to get in the house, though. It took them over 40 minutes to even get into the house. And it's like a 90-minute movie. The movie was basically half over by the time they even started moving the plot forward, because there were so many commercials. Just cut out like 25% of the commercials, it'd be fine. Put story in the slot that you free up. Then it'd have been great, probably, assuming it's written well.
Yeah, like the stuff with the cat doesn't also happen until 50 minutes in. Happened super late into the movie. It's
really, really backloaded, and there's basically nothing at the front of the movie.
I think it was like that attention of the only thing I was thinking of was like Slither, maybe because it was mentioned in our last episode, but that same kind of tone, or that Tales from the Crypt type tone, where it's leans way more heavy on the humor. That I guess the thought in WNUF was that the humor would keep you entertained throughout and would gut punch you with the horror, but there's so little horror in it, it does not feel like a gut punch.
I mean, there's almost no horror in it, besides the very, very end scene when they're locked in the basement.
Yeah.
And then that falls flat with the reveal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the reveal was like, I understand. I know where it comes from. It also has like a heavy, I think, political leaning, obviously. It's kind of also a trope in horror for a certain group to be the ones who are perpetrating horrible actions. Outs them as hypocrites. It's taking that extremism to a whole length. I know you don't like Kevin Smith, but did you watch Red State?
Nope.
Red State's really rough. It's super rough, but it's not very long. And it's one where his voice it's a very Kevin Smith movie. It's his weird, like, the things that he's trying to do differently, period. But I think WNUF it would actually make also a good companion piece to Red State.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, without giving too much away, I think they have a quite a bit of similarities in them. In terms of its probably political leanings, is that's what I felt like. Just the mere portrayal and that being in there, and especially of it, like the 80s stuff and the drug stuff and the Reagan stuff. I mean, I appreciated all of that, but I was like, yeah, I get it,
Yeah. It was a good period piece, I thought.
It is a good period piece. I would say I dug it a bit more just because I really appreciated the labor of love that is, and such attention to detail that, for me, besides probably any other found footage, this one feels most like it's like a product of its time, and that something could be potentially be one. That's obviously someone who's not a very astute viewer and someone who doesn't understand humor were to watch it. So that, yeah. And again, I get what they were going for in the ending, but they just didn't quite pull it all the way off.
I mean, it's kind of the opposite of Noroi. It was very, very ambitious, but they couldn't meet the end point of the ambition.
Yeah, I'd say so. Was there any other thoughts on WNUF?
Not really. I mean, I think there's a really good movie in there somewhere, but it's not the final product that we got. Not to say the final product's bad. It's fine. I'd recommend somebody watch it, maybe as a second movie and double feature. Fine. Not as double feature with Ghostwatch, as was recommended to me multiple times, and those people are very wrong. But yeah, it's a fine thing, probably to be accompanied to something else.
Yeah, I would say so. It probably didn't fit into our week's worth of movies. It is technically a found footage movie, but I think my companion pieces to it would either be...
This week was advertised as real and friends rather than found footage, so...
Footage,
so
right.
it does fit in the theme.
So everything that we had.
It fits in the theme more than As Above, I guess. So I forgot the conceit about Noroi when I proposed it being on the list, so it fits the theme a lot better than I originally thought it did.
Yeah.
Same with Bay, kind of.
Bay, I have thoughts on that.
I feel like the Bay is too much of a studio movie to fit the Advertised as real nomenclature.
Did you have the As Above, So Below problem?
A little bit.
Like I had with As Above, that kind of thing, similar.
I also had the shitty trailer problem with the Bay.
Did not watch the trailer for the Bay.
The trailer. I guess we'll just move straight into the Bay chat here, because I'm done with WNUF.
Yeah, same here.
The trailer, that scene at the very end. Well, spoilers for next minute for the Bay, kind of. Not really, even. It's just a scene that happens at the end. But the scene at the end where the girl from the boat's in the car and the infected woman pops out of the back and says, "Help me."
The best jump scare in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the trailer, they use that scene and people walking around puking blood and stuff to make it seem like it was going to turn into a zombie movie.
Oh my god.
Seriously? Instead of just this kind of, I guess, existential horror, maybe? This uncomfortable feeling type horror. Maybe not existential, but this is really fucked up eco horror, I guess.
Yeah, fucked up eco horror. Basically a much more horror version of Outbreak.
I don't know if you've read Gyo by Junji Ito with the robo farting fish.
No, I'm not.
It's not great. I can't recommend
Robo-farting fish?
You might like it.
But it has robo-farting fishes.
Now that I said that phrase, you might like it. It does have...
Yeah. I'm in now.
It does have, at the end of the second volume, his best story outside of Uzumaki. Maybe even better than Uzumaki, which is The Enigma of Amigara Fault. So I guess I can recommend just for that, because that story is a masterpiece. But yeah,
Robo-farting fishes? Where were you going back to that?
It felt like that story at the beginning with the fish dying from the thing. And especially since I thought it was going to turn into a zombie thing. Until probably about halfway, I'm like, they're not turning this into a zombie thing, are they?
I'm glad I stayed away from the trailer, because that scare was pretty good.
It was good. I was honestly kind of nodding off at that point, and then that scare happened, and I was wide awake after that. Unfortunately, the credits were about 30 seconds after that, but whatever.
I mean, it's also a movie that like has a ton of ambition and quite can pull it off.
It was fine. Right. But yeah, you're right. It had too much ambition and not enough follow through.
Yeah. So this is the Bay is also under a whole nother category. One that I've made up, which is older directors getting into the found footage game or the new media game. So George A. Romero tried it with Diary of the Dead. Did you watch Diary of the Dead?
Did not.
Have you seen the other recent one? Did you watch Survival of the Dead?
I'm pretty sure the most recent George Romero movie I watched is the original Dawn of the Dead.
So not Day or Land?
Not Day or Land.
You have to watch Day. Day of the Dead's pretty good. Okay. Day of the Dead's like solid 80s horror. I'll put in one for Day. I own Land as well. Land is kind of like, is also from 2005. Kind of, I would say the Blade 2 effect happening. There's a lot of shitty dated CGI of the time in there. It's very, very comic booky. Not within the kind of like confines of the zombie stuff that was popular at the time. Like the remake of Dawn of the Dead or 28 Days Later or even Shaun of the Dead. Like Land of the Dead is pretty much Land of the Dead is a big budget sci-fi zombie movie. Like Sci-Fi Channel zombie movie.
Oh, Sci-Fi
that's
Channel.
That's how I would sell it.
Okay, that changes things a little bit. Luckily, I kind of have a soft spot for sci-fi originals.
So if you do, I think you would dig Land of the Dead, but I would definitely watch Day.
Okay.
So
I've on more than one occasion been tempted to put a bunch of words in a hat, pull two out, and just write a script for that. Because that's basically what sci-fi original movies are.
It's true. Mosquito Man.
Spider Nazi.
From the 90s. Is there a Spider Nazi?
Nope, but you believed it for a second, didn't you?
I did. I believed it for several seconds.
Frozen Frankenstein.
Frozen Frankenstein sounds good. I
know they had one. They did have one that's called Shock Trooper that was about a Nazi Frankenstein.
Just one?
Yeah. I think that'd be a fun script writing exercise.
If you pull it off, you just send in the scripts. They'll do one eventually.
Probably. Guys, what are we going to do for the next movie? I don't know. We have like 80 scripts from this Mike guy. The titles sound like our stuff. Want to just do one? Sure.
They're all going to be hits. If we can get 50 people to watch them, we're good. Is also like sci-fi pretty much like 80% of their programming is infomercials, right?
I don't know. I only record the stuff I watch on there. And that's not that much anymore. Okay. Although they have a new series coming out that I'm very, very interested in called The Expanse. And I
haven't watched a lot of their originals. Is Helix any good?
I've not watched any Helix. The only thing I watch on Sci-Fi right now is Face Off, which is how I learned.
Good.
Which is how I learned about The Expanse, which is a somewhat far-ish future sci-fi thing where humans have gone off-world and started mutating to adapt to their surroundings. And apparently there's some classism stuff based on, I think it was the gravity of the planet that you grew up on or something? I don't know exactly. It sounded really interesting and I hope it's good. Apparently it's based on a book series. I might have to check it out.
Yeah, I Unfortunately, I mean, hopefully they'll take the budget away from all your potential movies and put them into their TV shows, because it looks like they're kind of...
Some of their TV shows are good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, apart from Universe, I always really enjoyed Stargate. It's not great. It's, like, super, super campy sci-fi, but I thought had lots of laughs, good enough action stuff. I enjoyed it a lot.
So into Stargate.
Huh?
So you're into Stargate.
I am into Stargate.
You put in for Stargate.
And I don't know how I feel about the fact that they're rebooting the movie.
They are?
Yeah. And how can you top Kurt Russell and James Spader?
Yeah, that is really hard to top. Those fox heads were really cool.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what those were?
Jackals.
Jackals. There we go. That's right. That's what Egypt had. I watched The Mummy Returns. I should know.
Did you watch... I presume you've watched the regular The Mummy, too. Because they're both fun.
Yeah. The 1998 one?
Mummy 3 is not great, but the first two are... They're fine. They're Brendan Fraser movies. They're on the good half of the Fraser spectrum.
Along with what's his devil movie? Is it Bedazzled?
Was it Bedazzled?
Some shit like that.
Something like that with Elizabeth Hurley, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I recall that being fine.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not on the monkey bone spectrum.
No, I mean, it's probably not good, but I remember enjoying George of the Jungle enough.
George of the Jungle was a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
Just poop in the face in that one.
Yeah, it's juvenile humor, which is good because the last time I watched it was when I was like 12. So
we've gotten very sidetracked from the Bay.
We did, but I mean,
okay.
I don't have a lot to say about the Bay. They said chicken shit a lot in the Bay, and I could not keep a straight face anytime they said chicken shit. Because you can't say chicken shit and have it be a serious moment.
Yeah, no, that's true. There's a lot of chicken shit in this movie. Very, you know what the Bay is a lot like? Did you watch Contagion?
I have Contagion on Blu-ray. I don't know why I have it, but I have not watched it. I think it may have been on sale, but I haven't seen it. I fell asleep when we tried to watch it.
I liked it. I liked it pretty good. It's, again, much better version of that 90s movie Outbreak, which also covers the same ground. Small town, some kind of virus breaks out, military and stuff comes in and fucks shit up, and there's a lot of shit happens. So it all started with Outbreak, and then Contagion did it, and then now the Bay is the found footage version of that movie.
Okay, maybe I might watch Contagion. I mean, I have it. I might as well. I'm slowly getting through the Blu-rays I have but haven't watched.
Yeah, I have tons
slowly.
of Blu-rays and DVDs I still haven't watched. Yeah.
I think I have 310 to Yuma I haven't watched.
Oh, that's not very good. The one with Russell Crowe and Bale?
The newer one, yeah.
Yeah, no.
That was on sale. That was on sale at Target. I have American Psycho, which I haven't watched.
American Psycho's great.
I've been meaning to watch it, but
for
I just tend to have it, and I haven't watched it. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I know I bought The Rock and National Treasure 2 with the 310 to Yuma and American Psycho, but I've definitely watched those two a number of times.
Only I yesterday did kind of have the time to sit through National Treasure 1.
I'm in a small minority of people, I think, that want the National Treasure 3. I like those movies quite a bit.
I'm in the majority, and I don't understand why you would want a National Treasure 3.
They're fun. They're a better Indiana Jones movie than we're going to get out of Lucas. Does Lucas still have Indiana Jones?
That's true.
Or does Disney have Indy now? I forget. Did they just buy all of Lucas?
Did they just buy Star Wars?
I don't remember.
I have no idea, actually. Neither do I.
Because if Disney bought it, then maybe there's a chance we'll get a good indie. If Lucas still has it, then National Treasure is the best indie we're ever going to get again. And it has Nick Cage. Now, how can you hate Nick Cage? I mean, look at him. Look at him and say no to that face.
Yeah, that's true. I can't say no to Nick Cage. I do own Drive Angry. That's been one of my favorite recent Nick Cage films. It's good. It's a little self-conscious. It's a little like Snakes on the Plane, where, you know, the internet, and it's exactly what you expect, and maybe it's a little too proud of itself. But I think Drive Angry was a lot of fun. Some decent Cage stuff in there.
I generally like... I mean, there's not too much Nick Cage movies I've watched that I straight up do not like. So he often does the best with what he's got that he can do.
The man gives it his all.
Yeah, even if his all's not great that time, You can tell he's trying.
Yeah, he's definitely always trying. I'm gonna put 1 for Ghost Rider 2. I thought that one was fine.
I was fine with Ghost Rider 1. I haven't seen 2. I mean, again, it's not great.
2 was directed by the Crank guys, and I really like Crank 2, and I thought Gamer was fantastic. Those guys are fucking crazy awesome filmmakers, and I do enjoy their go for broke attitude. They're basically like, I think people call them the American Miike. It's a little too much for them, but they haven't really, I think Ghost Rider 2 might have broke them. Those are PG-13 studio movies, so. And it was an okay effort. I was fine with it. Not the travesty that a lot of people thought it was.
That's the one that has the Ghost Rider peeing fire or something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does have the Ghost Rider peeing fire. It has Idris Elba wearing gold contacts, and he fucking rides a motorcycle off a cliff and turns around and shoots a car. It's got some good shit in there.
Okay.
So there's that. But back to the Bay, I had this complaint about. So is this older directors? Do you know who directed the Bay?
Barry Levinson?
Yes, Barry Levinson.
What else has he done? I don't know that name.
He is an established director from the 80s. I would say he even belongs in sort of the same family as like Spielberg and Lucas and like Ron Howard. Like he came out of the same time. He basically directs the movies that our parents watched. So like Rain Man. Oh, okay. Did you ever watch Rain Man?
I know the name Rain Man. I've not seen it. Looks like he did Good Morning Vietnam, which I also have not seen.
Yeah. Again, movies that our parents watched. So a lot of like dramas and dramedies from the 80s and 90s. His debut was Diner, which is a movie I own, which is kind of like Friends growing up type movie, kind of coming of age movie from the 80s. It was pretty good, and it was like he was sort of like the dramatic Judd Apatow of his time. So a lot of his movies were, I think, improv based and naturalistic, and again, mostly dramas. So it's really weird that like at age 70 or so, he decided to make a found footage horror type film, kind of out of nowhere, because he has not made anything like this before.
I mean, and I think that's commendable. He's trying something new. And he didn't stick the landing, but I don't think he botched it completely.
Right, I don't think he botched it completely too.
I don't think any of the movies we watched this week are bad movies.
No, I know I had a lot of problems with As Above, So Below. Even getting into the conceit of it and rethinking it, I still had like issues with it.
At worst, I'd say As Above, So Below is below average. I wouldn't go and say it's an F movie or even a D movie. It's a C- movie.
Right. C- movie. But it's just so disheartening because it could have been so much more.
Yeah. And I'd like to see somebody with maybe a lower budget and not as much of a dependency on a studio try and do a similar idea.
Studio, it's fucking overlit. I don't know if I had a problem with my setup on my TV, but it was like so bright that I could just see everything. Mm-hmm. And like there's just no mystery to it at all.
I do think the studio has a lot to do with it. I think horror is at its best when it's not from a big name studio, for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we can get into...
There's going to be some classics
Grave Encounters later.
Yeah. Was Grave Encounters from a big studio? No, it wasn't, right?
No, it wasn't, but I was like, even indie stuff like Grave Encounters, I think, have problems too.
Yeah.
Being a little nitpicky. I did like the Bays, I think, like Barry Levinson came out of like the 70s school of filmmaking, so I liked his sort of conspiracy style stuff and his distrust in the government, which is very clear in the movie. Obviously parallels to Katrina in there, and that's probably what inspired the Bay mostly, as far as like how the nation would deal with a fuck up like this or a eco disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because he probably comes from the same school of like 70s horror movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they were made by these like left-leaning filmmakers, and they were all about government distrust and paranoia. And obviously paranoia is a huge theme for the Bay, and trying to cover shit up and trying to ignore the problem. And so it made sense to me that Barry Levinson would make a movie like this, especially during our times with eco disasters on the loom and perfect examples like Katrina of government rescue fuck ups. And also just an older guy trying so hard to understand new media. And he, I think, ultimately pulls it off just barely. It wasn't as annoying. What I was trying to get at was George A. Romero's Diary of the Dead, his found footage zombie movie, is fucking rough. Maybe not terrible, but very rough, very much an old man going like, hey, this is me playing with digital cameras, and I'm just, I don't get it. I don't get young people, but I'm trying. Where I think Barry Levinson gets it a lot more than George A. Romero did.
Were there moments in Diary of the Dead that are like good moments, or is it mainly just Romero missing the mark 100%?
I would say it's Romero missing the mark like 80%.
Okay.
There's a few good zombie kills. It's probably like the worst that found footage has to offer. Like, think about the worst parts of Grave Encounters, where it's mostly people not being able to hold the camera, running around screaming. It's not the worst thing ever. I mean, I dig that Romero still knows how to do a low budget movie, so that seeing an apocalyptic zombie movie done in a found footage style, even on a low budget, somebody can like pull off certain scenes. And I think Romero does that very well. He's really good at spacing zombies out in a wide space, so that when it goes to a wide shot, you're seeing all these zombies lumbering around, that it still looks that like there's a visceral thrill in that shot, that you're like, oh, this is just like his old stuff. But in Diary of the Dead, that kind of stuff is few and far between. Okay. I would say Survival of the Dead, his follow-up to Diary, which is a traditional film, weirdly enough, was a lot more fun than Diary was, and I think he pulled that off more. And that one's more of a lark. That has more, that's way more kind of smarmy and comedic, where Diary takes itself way too seriously.
Okay. I was just curious, because I think it's commendable when older people try new stuff, but if they just completely miss it, then maybe not as commendable. It depends if they have their moments where they kind of figure out how to do it or what's going on with this.
There's a few cool shots and scenes in Diary of the Dead, but they don't make up the whole. If you want a zombie found footage movie, I mean, Record is where it's at, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Rec is great. I love it.
Yeah, Rec is, I would say, great too. I wanted to do a thing about like near the end, if we were to pick our favorite found footage movie, I think Record is still absolutely my favorite found footage movie. So I'm coming out of the gate with that one. Yeah, strong opinion.
Mine honestly may be Ghostwatch, because I love that movie.
Ghostwatch?
I adore Ghostwatch.
Is there anything more to say about the Bay?
Not really. I thought the oceanographer that wasn't the French lady was kind of a dick to that French lady the whole time, but that's about it.
He's just making fun of her accent the whole time.
Yeah, that's really about it. I apparently enjoyed how self-aware the movie was at some point. I don't remember, like, in reference to what.
Chicken shit. All that chicken shit.
Yep, chicken shit.
I think it was effective enough to make you like a little bit paranoid about shit. To be like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be drinking this water. I'm not going to drink water now at all. I'm not going to touch water. So yeah, I think it's got some effective moments.
Yeah.
Should we go on to Ghostwatch?
Let's go to Ghostwatch. I love Ghostwatch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I liked it.
I think you really need to watch it in one sitting.
Okay.
Because it's all about pacing.
Yeah, it's pretty well paced. And I think really well acted. I really like the host, dude. I think the host guy was very matter of fact and very of the time. And
those are straight up real BBC hosts from the time using their real names.
Okay, was it? Oh, yes, I had no idea.
This was there were the credits at the beginning, but otherwise they tried to play it off as this is a real thing happening as much as possible.
Yeah, so it would have been definitely a thing to see, like, watch live. To have, like, watched this live when it happened would have been so fucking cool.
This movie was only aired in the UK one time, after which the BBC banned it for 10 years, and then released it on DVD.
Wow.
Because they did have there were actually lines open for people to call in and tell stories. That the phone line said, "Hey, this is a piece of fiction," but there were so many people calling in that it was getting a busy tone, so most people didn't hear that line when they called in. There was also, apparently some kids developed PTSD from this movie, supposedly.
Whoa, really?
And
I had no idea.
And the BBC apparently came under fire about Ghostwatch because it aired really close to the point where kid-friendly stuff stopped on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super violent, and it fucked some kids up. And apparently there was a suicide in relation to this movie.
Real suicide?
A real-ass suicide.
God, that's fucked up.
Yeah. So this movie is pretty controversial as far as the movie itself and how it portrays itself as real.
Right.
And again, like I said, these were real BBC anchors using their real names, acting like they normally would. Acting like this is a normal thing.
Right.
All the stuff in the house was filmed like 6 or so weeks ahead of time. And the studio stuff was live, so there's people in the studio reacting and fake interacting with stuff that had been filmed already. So you're getting kind of live expressions from the people in the studio until the end, of course.
They put a lot of work into it. I mean, that means that what's all the controversy and everything. Ghostwatch is basically one of a kind as far as the type of movie that it is and the type of thing that it's doing. I mean, that's fucking crazy. I mean, that makes me appreciate it more.
And I'm pretty sure this was circulated on, until they released the DVD, it was circulated on VHS or Beta or whatever they use in the UK for a long time. So it's very, very much a niche cult movie.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, back then, shit was hard to find.
Yeah, somewhat recently, in the last few years, they actually released a documentary called Ghostwatch Behind the Curtain, which I have not seen yet, because I would not have been able to get a copy of it before we recorded here, because I only just found out about it. And again, I think they also followed us. Oh no, they retweeted us when I said that Ghostwatch is great on Twitter. They retweeted that. So thanks for that behind the curtains, guys. I very much look forward to watching the documentary. Like, legit, this isn't me.
So do I. I'm really interested in how
this isn't me sucking up.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. There's also a short story written by the guy who wrote Ghostwatch. His name's Stephen Volk, and it's a short story direct sequel to Ghostwatch. And I'll put a link to both that short story and the Ghostwatch Behind the Curtain stuff in the show notes. I haven't read the short story yet, but I'm going to when I get the time to go through it. It's like 12 pages long or something.
Okay, yeah, that's not so bad.
But yeah, so you should definitely rewatch it now that you know the backstory behind that, and that those weren't actors per se. And I think they did very, very well with the movie, considering they aren't actors. They sold what was going on
super well,
perfectly.
Yeah, I think the host was perfect at what he was doing. I thought that dude was great. I like you said earlier, it's the pacing of it that works so well. I mean, Ghostwatch, the pacing is really good, and stuff like when they go back to the shot of the girls sleeping in bed, and there is they see the outline of the figure, the ghostly figure that's there, but it's so subtle. It might not even be there, but it's so fucking creepy and so effective.
What they do with that, they have him there for one shot, and then the next time they go back to it, he's not there.
Yeah, I noticed that too when the camera panned. Yeah.
Yeah, they want you to doubt whether or not you're actually seeing this thing there, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Apparently Pipe shows up in the movie 13 times, according to someone involved with production. But as far as anyone can find, people can only find 8 of these appearances. So there's 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 5 more appearances of this ghost in there somewhere that no one knows where they are.
That is weird. That is what makes it extremely creepy, is like it could pop up anywhere and it's not in a jump scare form. When it just stays on
he's never shown straight on.
Yeah.
I personally saw him 6 times. I kept a tally. And I made the tally box way too big on my note.
See, I think I only probably saw him like 3 times, not very many, because the only other shot I remember is when they're trying to open the door underneath the stairs. So it would have been the place that he hung himself, and when they get it barely cracked open at the very edge of the door, you see him, and then the cameraman just drops dead, or the mirror falls on top of him. Yeah. That was like super fucking effective. Just that brief glimpse in the corner of like when they try to get up, and again, no loud scary music or surprises. Like the mere like just catch the glimpse of an image was like fucking terrifying. So you're right. I mean, I did quite like this bit. The spooky voices worked well, and I'm not a very big spooky voices type guy. You know, they can be overused. Yeah. Essentially, stuff that you can see on YouTube or see in Vines anywhere. It being a product of this time, when the girl speaks in that fucking voice, I was like, holy shit. And the end as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, now that you know, like, the main story beats of it, I think a second rewatch is, like, ideal, because now you can keep a lookout for when Pipe shows up in the background and stuff.
Yeah, and keep a closer eye. That's gonna creep me out doing that, so there is that.
Yeah. I adored the painting over the fireplace in the studio, which was was it just a... It was the guy with a sheet over him. Is a sheet ghost.
That's all it was?
Yeah. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, it was. I thought that, like, I'm surprised they never gave a close-up shot, but I did notice that just there. It's so odd. Just the fucking sheet ghost there.
I liked that it was... I liked the reveal at the end that the whole thing was making... Spoilers! Whole thing was making Pipe stronger the whole time. And I did not remember that ending from the first time. That really caught me by surprise again and kind of scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that's probably what related it to WNUF, the whole accidental seance thing. Or basically and that's what makes it so much better, is just like I can see again that I appreciated that part of it, that like when they started getting in the calls of people experiencing weird shit wherever because they were watching it, just because of the mere thing of Ghostwatch being broadcasted was making Pipes more powerful, making shit crazier happen all over the world, and that like gives you that creepy feeling that we'll talk about later for a movie that we're gonna watch soon. But basically, that by watching it yourself, you're fucking yourself over. That the image and the stuff you're watching is affecting you in a really weird, sinister way.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think, I'm not 100% sure because I don't know British television at all. I think the woman was frequently on a kid show on the BBC, or may have been the host. I'm not 100% sure. So I think one of the things that like freaked kids out was the host of this show that they watched kind of dying on television in front of you.
Yeah, that would have been the woman who was in the house with the girls and stuff.
I mean, I'm possibly completely wrong. If there's any UK listeners watching TV in the early 90s, I guess write something down in the comments and correct me. And I'll read the corrections in the next recording.
Corrections department?
Yeah. Well, the corrections housekeeping thing. But yeah, I think knowing the backstory of this and also the plot beats will help you appreciate this movie again. Also watching in one sitting.
Yeah. So once breaking it up, kind of like,
yeah. I agree that the thermal effect looked really, really good, though. That was really effective. You brought that up a long time ago now. But yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, they didn't overdo it, and honestly sat through those scenes with like my hands over my face, just like peeking through, because shit like that just creeps me out way too much. Mm-hmm. Not just thermal imaging, but just the way it was done. Yeah. If there's just a really long, unbroken POV shot of creeping through shit, that does get me. So, and anytime something is edited, I feel safe. So that's why when shit is edited too much, I go like, oh, I'm not with this at all, because it's, cut to shit. To that, I mean, I I think I told you about it a little bit before, but I just didn't like the psychiatrist lady character that was in the studio.
I mean,
she's the only one that felt like an actor acting. Everyone else was naturalistic, and you totally believed them. She was the only one that looked like, reading her line or something. There was just something about her acting that just felt so self-consciously a performance, where everyone else didn't feel like a performance at all.
But then again, I kind of feel like she was necessary to kind of give a frame of reference for the supernatural stuff. Because otherwise I feel like a lot of the happenings, and I guess some of the stuff wouldn't exist without that character, because she was doing experiments with the kids.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, Ghostwatch is good.
Yeah, I mean, for the time, it was a crazy amount of stuff that they were trying to do and ultimately pulled off. I mean, there's a lot of history with Ghostwatch that I had no idea about that you just told me. So, yeah, I'm putting one for Ghostwatch. It's ultimately a creepy. I wouldn't say scary movie. I mean, it isn't one of jump scares, and it's not one that would keep me up at night or didn't keep me up at night, but I appreciated its conceit.
I think it has that dread that Noroi does too.
Mm-hmm.
You're just waiting for something like shocking or a jump scare to happen, and it just doesn't really. Shit goes down at the end.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it for Ghostwatch. What do we got next? Are we at the last movie
next
already?
Is I think so. Did we talk about 7 movies already? Is that what we?
I think so. I guess all we have left, it looks like, is Grave Encounters, which I also love. I love almost everything about this movie, except for some of the CG guys. I don't think they're great. I think they're fine. They could be a lot worse. I don't think they overused.
They could have been a lot worse. I think they overused them by using them in the first place. But I like this movie a lot more than I thought I would. There's some good stuff going on. I think the good ultimately outweighs the bad. So it's kind of a, like a 60-40 type of movie for me.
Apparently this movie has won one award and was nominated for 2 others.
Really?
Yeah. Is nominated for official selection in the Sitges Film Festival. It was nominated for an award at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it won for Best Director at the Bram Stoker International Film Festival.
Bram Stoker International Film Festival, that's the thing?
I guess so. I mean, there's no Wikipedia link to it, so I can't see if it's actually a thing. But I'm going to trust it, I guess. I can Google it and see if it's actually a thing.
What do you love about Grave Encounters? Why are you a huge fan of this movie?
The atmosphere is really, really spooky. And, effectively spooky. I love the kind of House of Leaves stuff it does with the layout and the floor plan of the hospital rearranging itself.
Uh-huh.
I think that's amazing. I think this is basically the closest to a live-action House of Leaves that we're going to get, because that movie is straight up impossible to do.
Right. I have not read House of Leaves, but
I've read most of it. The problem with House of Leaves is if you stop reading in the middle, it is literally impossible to pick back up anything sooner than a couple days later and still have any idea what's going on. Because there are multiple narratives going on in that book at any given time. And you have to flip back and forth and do all sorts of crazy... It's a crazy book. What I've read is really good and unsettling. But
right. I've heard about, the maze-like stuff.
I'm almost 100% certain this could never be any form except this book.
Right. Not as a graphic novel of sorts?
No, it's straight up text.
Okay.
The Bram Stoker International Film Festival is in Whitby, England.
Ah.
It's apparently been going... Oh no, that's the anniversary of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Hey, on the subject of that, that got re-released on Blu-ray in a new 4K remaster that looks absolutely fucking fantastic.
Really? I haven't seen that movie in a long, long time.
Yeah, it's a super rough movie, but I mean, by most accounts, most people agree that it's a fairly accurate adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
So, award winner, the House of Leaves stuff. I mean, for me, I thought the geography of it didn't, the craziness of that happening didn't unsettle me. I mean, I feel like maybe it could be done somewhere else. I guess because I think the geography and layout of the asylum was confusing to begin with. That it didn't affect me.
Like the moment when they're ramming the front door and then it ends up just being another hallway. It's like, oh shit, they're boned. Guys, maybe we should just take the 80-foot drop. It's probably a better idea.
Yeah. I felt like that when it started happening more and more. When they go through the emergency exit and it's just more rooms, that's when I felt it. For some reason, it wasn't at the exit when they ran the door, and when they try to go up to the roof and they find just a solid wall. That's when I was like, okay, this is good. Yeah, it just didn't work for me on the first reveal, and I'm not sure why it didn't, because maybe I thought the geography was already kind of confusing.
They also said, like, at the beginning, basically everything that was going to happen in the movie, which I didn't notice the first time.
I didn't notice that watching it this time.
They're saying stuff like, right at the beginning, like, it's like these hallways go on forever. It's like a maze down here. You could easily get lost. The beginning where he's like, ew, rats, is setting up for the part at the end where he has to eat rats to live.
Right, the rat stuff. I remember yeah, that was awesome. Seeing that at the end really was like surprised to throw that near the very end. I was like, that's fucking awesome. I dug the rat bits of the movie. That part, I was like, holy shit, it went there.
But yeah, I like that they basically said, hey guys, you don't know it yet. We've just told you the entire movie right here, though. Have fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's a little self-satisfied to do that, though.
But I thought it did it well enough. I really like the shot at the end when they're in the bathtub room, and then he's by the bathtub and getting pulled in, and the camera gets set down, and they go back, and it's just straight to him gone. I thought that was a good example of showing what happened without showing what happened, and did it very effectively.
I mean, my nitpicky stuff is when she splashes out of there, all the fake CG splash just looked too distracting to me. Like,
I thought that was probably the best CG in the movie. That splash. There's a lot worse CG in the movie.
Yeah, there is. Like the girl standing in the corner is something that's ruined in the trailers, and it's like one of the main images for the movie that comes up when you Google it. So that was ruined for me, or finally played out. Because actually, if you stare at that image, it's fucking creepy as shit, but the way it's used in the movie,
super
it's
creepy.
done it's super creepy but it's done in the movie. It's so quick and such a like perfunctory thing that I was like, oh, I wasn't bothered by it. I was like, oh, great. I guess I wasn't creeped out by its use in the movie, or it just been oversee it. The dude hanging on the ceiling, and when he runs at that same guy when he runs at the camera, I thought those were the scariest bits of the movie.
Yeah,
as far as jump scares go. And the effect on his face, to me, felt the best use of the CG Snapchat ghost face effect. So that was fine.
I think the worst CG was the hands coming from the ceiling. That's the only CG I thought that was particularly egregiously bad.
Yeah, and it's so weird to see that because it was done so much better in the last segment of the first VHS movie, which came out around the same time. Did it not? Or did the CG hands of VHS came out after Grave Encounters? I'm actually not sure.
See, Grave Encounters was 2011. So when was VHS? VHS was 2012.
Yeah, so VHS came out after. And just did that effect so much better. Like, why were those hands so large?
I don't know. Ghost shit.
Ghost shit.
Ghosts.
Yeah.
Maybe it's them them starting to go insane.
I mean, I did appreciate that Grave Encounters didn't go the obvious route where it's like, oh, there are no ghosts, it's all just them going crazy, and then at the end it's going to reveal that Lance Preston killed his whole crew or whatever and like hung himself. I appreciated that there was a supernatural element. It did have the problem of giving away too much or showing too much that it becomes
a little bit
less effective as it goes on. Because maybe that takes away from the ambiguity of it. There's something to be said about when shit is ambiguous and you're not sure whether it is something supernatural or it's the people just going crazy or it's supernatural shit making the people go crazy. But I appreciated that Grave Encounters at least has legit supernatural entities and it's not just another movie where the main characters go crazy and then you blame it all on like the crew member who is the most douchebaggy.
Although that it wasn't Lance Preston that was the most douchebaggy. That would be the fake psychic guy.
He looked most like a douchebag. That's true.
Yeah. Although he was my favorite character the first time I watched it. I don't remember why.
Houston, the Chris Angel psychic type.
Yeah, I thought he had some pretty funny moments at the beginning.
He did. I did like the humor at the beginning, and I did like their fake intro to Grave Encounters because it's so fucking accurate to a reality ghost show that you could see on like A&E or Discovery Channel or whatever the fuck they air those type of shows. It's so pinpoint and making fun of that shit. And I did appreciate that a lot of the beginning of the movie is fucking taking the piss out of the reality ghost shows.
Yeah, that gardener was possibly my favorite part of the first part of the movie. That gardener scene is great.
It is pretty good. $20. Yeah, a little bit of stereotyping, but I mean that's a movie for you.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't terrible stereotyping.
Right. But I mean, the thing about Grave Encounters is it reminds me a lot of House on Haunted Hill, the 90s version. I don't know if you watched that.
Not in a long, long time.
Oh, it's got that Marilyn Manson soundtrack, dude. It's awesome. That's a movie I watched in theaters when I was like 9 and totally fucked me up. And kind of have a soft spot in my heart for it, even though it does not hold up very well at all. But it was one I dug quite a bit when I watched it. And it's a movie version of Grave Encounters. You know, they go to a former psychiatric place. They see like the ending scene of Grave Encounters is fucking taken wholesale from House on Haunted Hill, is it not?
I cannot remember. Maybe.
House on Haunted Hill. I mean, you don't mind if I probably ruin one of the most effective scenes for you, right? If you need to rewatch it.
Nope. Spoilers do nothing to me.
Effective scenes of House on Haunted Hill is there's like a journalist character. She's running around with her 90s fucking camcorder, and one of the parts is, you know, you see her little flip screen, and there's nothing in front of her in person, but when she holds up the camera, she sees the operating people from the 50s, and they're operating on someone, and she's in the room that they're in, and it's super effective, super well done, super creepy. And that was the same shit that was happening in at the very end of Grave Encounters. And I was like, I mean,
the difference with Grave Encounters is that I don't think he was seeing them through the camera. I think he was seeing them in person.
Seeing them right in front of him. And we were seeing it through his camera because that's all we had to watch it from.
And all that stuff does play into the second movie. Because there's basically two ways you can take this movie. You can take it as itself, or it's kind of a setup for a punchline in Grave Encounters 2. It's not a jokey punchline per se, but it's a gotcha kind of thing. Grave Encounters 2 is a weird thing. I like it, like a lot more than other people do. A lot of people don't like it. But it's weird. It's not like pure horror, or going for pure horror like this one was. It's kind of tongue-in-cheeky.
Tongue-in-cheek. Is it a lot like Insidious 2?
I haven't seen
like that.
I've only seen
the first one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, first one's fine.
I really need to rewatch the first one because I didn't like it the first time I saw it because of the end. The second half, or because of the demon world. I was not expecting that. It was a complete tone shift that I didn't know was coming. I feel like I'll like it a lot better knowing that's coming, knowing to expect that and to take it for what it is.
I don't think James Wan handles tone shifts very well. I think The Conjuring is his most consistent movie. So that's why, but I liked Insidious quite a bit. Insidious 2 is super rough. And I think has that same, like you mentioned about Grave Encounters 2. Insidious 2 goes into weird, completely off directions than the first one. It's a weird fucking movie. Yeah. And probably very divisive. Yeah.
I can recommend trying out Grave Encounters 2. I would understand if you didn't like it. Keep in mind, the first half an hour of that movie is garbage.
Of Grave Encounters 2?
Is a shit first half an hour of Grave Encounters 2. But the rest of the movie, I think, is fun.
It's good, solid stuff.
They announced a third one recently, actually.
Did they?
They announced Grave Encounters: The Beginning.
That's what they always do in the third movie, is they go back to the beginning. I mean, Insidious 3 did the same thing, I believe.
I'm curious to see what they'll do with it if they plan on keeping it found footage.
Kind of surprised that these movies are making money in a way, because I see them only available on stream sites, and I really haven't heard anything outside the internet of people watching them, because that's usually my gauge. Is that
Grave Encounters looks like it's mostly on demand and film festivals.
Right. I mean, because of that, I can't divorce it in my head that Grave Encounters is like a well-budgeted, more with effort, like Asylum type movie. That's what Grave Encounters seems way too much like, especially since a lot of its marketing is so leaning heavily on the scary ghost images or the spooky Photoshop faces, that to me they just look like super low budget Asylum movies. And I know they're super low budget, it's just the way they're sold to people that I can't divorce it from my head that this is kind of like a harebrained Asylum movie that's in just for a quick scare buck, especially since the marketing is leaning heavily on those Facebook faces, that this is basically YouTube jump scare the movie. Like the trailers are just so the images of the movie are so, they're so YouTube ready, and it's no surprise to me that the trailers are like probably are some of the most popular trailers, most viewed trailers on YouTube, just because of the images they choose. And I guess I have a problem with that, and I can't divorce that when I watch the movie. So, but I did like I liked a lot more stuff than I hated in the movie.
I do think it should be kept in mind that this was basically their first movie as
the
writer.
Vicious Brothers?
Yeah, this is their first thing together. This is their first thing as writer, directors, editors. Otherwise, one of them had only done a music video before, and one had only done a movie called Far West, and he was only the director, not the writer. So this, I think it's pretty good for their first go around.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's pretty commendable effort for the first go around. Apparently, they're coming out with a new movie sometime soon that I can't find any information on besides that's coming out next year. Apparently, called Haunted Temple.
What's the title?
Haunted Temple.
Haunted Temple?
Yeah. It's a
very straightforward title.
And I kind of hope it's good. They also did Extraterrestrial, which I have heard is mediocre.
I've not heard of that at all.
Let's see. Eiji Otsuka wrote the novel it's based on, apparently. Oh, sweet! He did Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service, which is amazing. I think you would dig it a lot. It's a manga or comic about a company that I'm reading this from the Wikipedia, so these aren't my words. It's university students who formed a company that specializes in dealing with the dead and their last wishes.
Okay.
So there's psychics and stuff on staff, so they speak to the deceased and help them go through their last wishes. And there's some pretty fucked up, creepy stuff in there. It is it's a horror comic.
Is it an ongoing series?
Yeah, it's still going. They actually started putting out recently big compilations with like 3 volumes in one thing, I think.
Yay!
I think it's very, very good. I haven't read it in a while, but I enjoyed what I did read. He also did MPD Psycho, which I've also heard is very good.
And Mike worked on that, as far as I know.
Did he?
He directed a few things. Yeah.
Is there a live action series?
Yes, there is.
Oh. Yep, directed by Mike.
Yay!
Yep, that's based on a comic.
I had no idea that was based on a comic. Huh. Weird interconnections there.
Yeah, so we've gone from Grave Encounters to Takashi Miike.
Everything should always go back to Miike. Everything. It's all connected, man.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to that movie, assuming it's actually a thing and not just a weird relic on IMDb somehow. Because it says coming out next year and there's not really any information for it.
Mm-hmm. As long as, if most people don't have the view, and obviously you don't, that Grave Encounters is some kind of like found footage cash grab, because I don't know what gave me that impression, but something did. Something about it did.
It's probably the YouTubiness of it.
Yeah, the YouTubiness.
You search for horror on YouTube, that ghost girl face is going to pop up in suggested things like 99% of the time.
Yeah, see, exactly. So that's just, I guess, the problem with either overexposure or, the YouTubiness of it. But the parts that aren't, those ghost faces are well done. I mean, again, the CG effects are super rough. Like, what happens to the psychic was, like, really bad. I don't know why they chose to go that route with it, where they could have done something way creepier and scarier.
I mean, they could have. It would have been scary for instead of just having him flash down the hall and died if they would have just had him be lifted up and just slammed into the wall a couple times. That's what I for some reason remember happening and wish I remembered correctly.
Yeah, the fact that it's done in a wide shot just like makes it look super ridiculous. But little things like there was a certain part of the movie where they're looking for the missing guy, Matt, where they're going to room and they're peering around the corner of each door. And I was so expecting for something to be there each time. And there wasn't, but it goes on unbroken for a couple of rooms. And I thought that's when it's most effective. That's when it's really fucking creepy. And like, there's no music, just the images are scary and tense enough, and like, and the camera isn't too shaky, and it's just effective. Just like that little shit is what got me. And so there's enough little good moments like that the bad moments don't bring Grave Encounters all the way down.
Okay. So I found an article from July on HollywoodReporter.com. It says the Vicious Brothers will direct horror thriller Temple based on a script by the guest screenwriter Simon Barrett.
Oh, hey, cool. That makes me look forward to it.
The film will shoot in Japan this year. As a tie-in with the film, a book of ghost stories surrounding various real temples in Japan will be released, written by Eiji Otsuka.
That's really cool.
The book will be featured in the film because one of the chapters focuses on the fictional temple in the project. Toei Animation will also create a 15-episode anime series based on the book. So this is hitting all the notes for me, every single note.
That is really crazy. That is really cool that they're doing something like this. I mean,
yeah.
I hope it all goes through. That's a lot of stuff. I do too. Let's see if
now that I know it's called Temple, not Haunted Temple. Fuck you, IMDb, for being wrong. I can keep an eye on that now that I know about it. As far as I can tell, it's still going through.
How will you wait? How can you wait for so long, you know? What are you going to do? I mean, I can't. When something like that, when I'm looking forward to something, I don't know what to do. I mean, I feel like as we grow up, there's enough like responsibilities and other things to fill our lives with that like waiting isn't as a big issue for me. But I know when I was like a kid in like high school and stuff, when I heard about something that I really wanted to see, it felt like a fucking eternity before it came out.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that now that I know about it. But I don't really have anything else to say about Grave Encounters. I've written at the top of the paper, I love everything about this movie. That might have been hyperbole. I do like a whole lot about it.
There's a little less to like for me. Those minor complaints. Ultimately, not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Creepy shit. Worth it just for the end. Just for that rat shit. Yep. I'm going to say that. That was my favorite bit. I say it's worth watching just for that fucking rat scene.
Yep. I think they could have done... I agree that they could have done better with what bad CGI they had.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's super bad. They could have mismanaged it a lot more than they did.
That's true. They could have... I was actually kind of surprised that the CG Ghostface was a pretty low count. Yeah. I didn't think it was necessary at the very, very end with the House on Haunted Hill people. Just the fact that they were there was scary enough. So that last
that does play into the second movie though.
Does it?
Yep. Super directly.
May watch second movie.
I would watch it. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. It's a fun movie regardless of its quality, I think. Also, the first movie is a movie in the second movie.
That kind of like Human Centipede 2?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is Grave Encounters the movie and Grave Encounters 2.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean,
I think they do it well enough. Like I said, first half an hour of that movie's garbage. So
garbage.
Once you get through it, I think it's pretty fun.
I'll give it a shot. I mean, again, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, so I'll probably have an easier time sitting through Grave Encounters 2. The last little bit was: did you watch MTV's Fear while it was on air, or did you? Have you heard about it though?
I do not think I've heard of that one. I know they're doing Scream right now, and I've heard it's kind of blah.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me. I mean, that sounds like any MTV dramatic show that they're doing. But Fear was a show that they did in the late 90s, early 2000s that was an actual reality horror ghost show where they would send these 20-somethings basically armed with steady cams, like the vest cams that would like keep a camera locked on their face, but also have one right in front of them, and basically have them run around abandoned asylums and hospitals and warehouses and scary shit like that. If you YouTube an episode today, that show does not fucking hold up as well. But I mean, when I was young, that shit was scary as fuck. It uses Godsmack as the theme song to the show. I'm not sure how many seasons. Fucking Godsmack makes it even more dated. The fact that they use that shit as the theme song to the show.
One other thing is that I feel like Grave Encounters may have resonated a little bit more with me because I think it was before I was in high school even. My friend and some of his friends took me to an abandoned insane asylum or mental hospital. I think it was mental hospital that we were not supposed to be in. I'm not going to disclose which one. It's long since gone now, so whatever. But it was kind of the creepiest thing that I have ever experienced in real life. And watching the movies like, oh, that's good. That could have gone a lot worse.
Right.
But yeah,
that's I've never done anything like that, so that I think my imagination would fuck me over on that kind of thing.
Yeah, the abandoned mental hospital, insane asylum thing gets me a little bit more than most people, I think, because of that. So I'm like, yeah, they're pretty creepy in real life. I get it, guys. I get it. I feel ya. Because the stuff like in these movies, a lot of it kind of happened. Like the ghost stuff, probably not. But like you'll hear just noises like 100 feet away, and you're like, what the fuck was that? The buildings just groan and creak and make noises. And you're never completely sure what it is unless you're the one who made the noise.
Yeah, I've probably not something I would do when I think about it. Maybe once. I don't know what I need to be armed with. I don't know how many cameras. Like if I just have a vest surrounded with about 8 cameras, like Matrix style, and just run around and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's another reason why I like that and this genre, that setting of horror movies as much as I do.
Was it during the day or was it at night?
It was at night. It was in the dead of night.
Why would you do that?
I was a young kid, and my older friend and his friends were like, let's come do a cool thing with the cool kids.
Right. Hang out at the abandoned building. Oh my god. Yeah, that sounds...
So yeah, that's that.
Okay.
Let's rank these movies.
Okay.
Number 5 is As Above, So Below.
Yeah, agree with that. Put it at the bottom.
4, WNUF?
Sure. That sounds good. Sounds good to me. I liked it quite a bit, a little bit more than you did. Yeah.
I'm going to count Curse of the Blair Witch as being a part of Blair Witch Project for the sake of this.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started with number 5 since we have 7 movies.
I forgot that as well.
1,
So As Below is 7.
right.
WNUF is 6.
Or actually, no, let's put WNUF or the Bay as 6.
That's hard. Probably the Bay at 6 because I
Okay.
kind of liked so much the effort and work and dedication that went into WNUF that it deserves it like 5.
Okay. And number 5 is WNUF. You're hearing me write things down and figure it through my head as I'm writing it down. 4. The next 4 are going to be hard, I think. What do you think is number 1? Noroi?
What, you say number 1? Yeah, Noroi is number 1.
Noroi?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we basically had nothing negative at all to say about. That movie's fantastic.
Yes, it is really fucking good. I think obviously number 2 I would put Ghostwatch.
Ghostwatch? Yeah, I can agree with that.
This is 3 and 4 is hard.
Yeah, because I really like both of the movies, but they both have their share of flaws.
So what movies are left? Is it Blair Witch and Grave Encounters?
Blair Witch and Grave Encounters. Because I'm not sure how much of me liking Blair Witch is also enjoying it based on the impact that it had on this subgenre of horror. which is
right,
all of the
actual
impact.
Content.
I guess Ghostwatch maybe not had as much impact on it, but it predated the Blair Witch. It's not like Blair Witch invented the format
all these movies,
off.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think overall I enjoyed Grave Encounters more than watching Blair Witch again.
Mm-hmm.
Blair Witch is much more of a slow burn.
It is a very slow burn.
It's not as easy to get caught up in it, I don't think.
Right.
It's not my complaint, but I've heard people I've watched with complain about getting motion sickness from Blair Witch, which I guess isn't something we can really put against it too much, but...
Right. It's super shaky, but that's the intention. So that's not too
Yeah.
bad. I mean, my personal would be Blair Witch, number 3.
I mean, I guess it helps to keep in mind that this list is for a general recommendation list for a general audience. Hey, watch things in this order. So I'm not sure if Blair Witch is as appealing to general audience or as
Right.
audience friendly.
Good. I mean, Grave Encounters is super audience friendly. It's made for people to watch and YouTube the shit out of and things like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, you got me there.
I feel like at this point, since we're so far removed from the marketing campaign of Blair Witch, that watching it without having some of this subgenre in mind as a reference, the movie might fall kind of flat.
Right. Yeah. It's more important due to its like legacy and history and holds up okay today.
Yeah.
It is just a lot of close-ups of people arguing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Noroi, not Ghostwatch, obviously, but Noroi and Grave Encounters kind of give you a good basis as how the genre has evolved from the Blair Witch to give you a good frame of reference as to be like, okay, this is where this more or less started. This is what sparked this genre. It's not what created it, but it's what created the boom of this genre that we are just kind of only now fading out of.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I think I might go with Grave Encounters for 3.
Grave Encounters for 3. It is, from this list, it is the most that feels like that roller coaster ride. I mean, I wouldn't call it fun, but it does deliver certain things, probably more so than As Above, So Below. I mean, my roller coaster found footage movie is still REC, Record.
Yeah, correct.
That's the one where I think front to back is just a fucking fun roller coaster horror ride of a found footage movie or any movie. So Grave Encounters is on this list the closest one to that kind of feeling.
Okay.
So I would understand. I know personally, I probably would have put Grave Encounters honestly like at 6, and like would have put WNF above it in the Bay. But that's just personal. We're talking about general audience, and I'm not gonna spend time on this. So yeah, Grave Encounters number 3.
Okay. And that's the list. Number 1, Noroi. Number 2, Ghostwatch. 3, Grave Encounters. 4, Blair Witch. 5, WNUF Halloween Special. 6, The Bay. And 7, As Above, So Below. Again, I don't think any of these are bad movies per se. They're below average
I didn't hate
at worst.
any of these. Yeah. I had a lot of complaints about As Above, So Below, but I didn't hate it.
It's a fun popcorn movie, and again, it's not really even a horror movie, in my view.
Spooky adventure.
Yeah, it's spooky Indiana Jones.
Yeah, but although it's a lot, I mean, it really
spooky found footage indie.
Spooky found footage indie. Yeah, that's a good genre. Yeah, all that treasure shit at the end, definitely. It's all there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. So before we get wrapped up here, let's move into the ghost story section. I know I just kind of asked you to have a ghost story out of the blue, Patrick, so I will explain what we're doing for you and for anybody that's picking this up, I guess, without listening to our fantastic first episode. So, the abbreviated version is, there is a tradition in Japanese horror storytelling called Hyaku Monogatari, which translates to 100 stories, where you get a group of people together and you light 100 candles and you take turns telling stories. And after every story, you blow out one candle. And it's said that the farther you get into this ritual thing, the walls between our world and the spirit world get thinner. So in addition to things getting spookier because getting darker, weird things are said to happen. You may realize that we do not have the time for 100 stories within the once-a-week podcast for the month of October. So we're doing more of a Juichi or 11-story thing. But yeah, so you have a story for us. Do you not, Mr. Klepek?
I do. It's short. One of the things I've enjoyed, it was kind of a thing a couple of years ago, but I enjoy kind of following the new ones people create. So this isn't from... So there was a thing a couple of years ago, there was a Reddit thread in which people tried to write like the shortest sort of scary stories possible, and I became sort of a huge fan of that form, in just looking for people that were writing creepy tales that didn't require a whole lot of setup. It was kind of just like a very quick in and out, but left you with some goosebumps at the end. And so I was kind of looking at some this morning, and I found this one from Thought Catalog that links to this other Reddit thread where people are discussing some, and this one kind of I enjoyed it. So it's called What's in the Basement? Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy. So I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go in the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making noises like a puppy, or why he had no hands or feet. I think that's pretty good.
That's short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was good. That's a good punchline at the end. Yeah, short horror stories is extremely difficult. I mean, but that's what the internet is for, and it's been growing and growing. Like, I haven't actually read a whole lot of them because I get creeped out way too easily. So I never was into like the Something Awful or the Reddit horror stories or the creepypastas. Got late in the game on Slenderman, where he came out of. Like, the short horror stories are just too much for me most of the time. Okay,
so I've got another one from the Something Awful Ghost Story thread. It's another older one. It's called The Wireman by SA user Stuntcock. Okay. Last night, I was derailed from seeing a movie by a pal of mine, Jay, who needed a ride to a barbecue, with an invite as barter. Damn right, I could see that movie another time. So, we arrive at Lindsay's house, where roommates are all running about, organizing contents for 11 grocery bags. Meat here, condiments there, booze here, etc., etc. I'd noted to Lindsay that I liked her new home. It's much bigger, roomier, and safer than her previous one, to which she looked a little bit puzzled. You must be referring to the house on Nashville Street, because you never saw the other one, Lindsay's roommate Emily finished. So, you don't know the story of the place in between the place you used to live in and this one, right? Lindsay asked. I just stood there, curious of all the wide-eyed, uneasy looks, making myself wordlessly obvious that I had not a clue. They called in the third roommate, Brienne, followed by Jay. They took turns adding in their 2 cents, confirming little details, adding others, to which they all agreed upon as the story progressed. Rather than make this a back-and-forth story of 4 people interjecting, I'll tell it to you third person. On Carlton Avenue in New Orleans, Lindsay had parted with her previous roommate and got together with 2 girls from school she didn't know too well, Brienne and Emily, and got a decent place. The place in question was rather roomy, in a good location, and, above all, a hell of a bargain. This house, like most in the neighborhood, is nearly 100 years old. When Emily and Lindsay arrived to move their belongings in, they saw a note on the door of the farthest room from the front door. There was a note by Brienne saying that she'd already claimed it, which annoyed the other 2 girls. A blessing in disguise. Within the first week or two, Brienne and the girls were all in the house together. Lindsay and Emily supposedly asleep, and Brienne up all night, determined to finish the book she was reading. At somewhere between 2 and 4 a.m., she'd reached the last page of her text, closing the book and settling in bed to see if she was tired enough to sleep. Note that the book was not a mystery or horror book, and she had an elated feeling about what she just read. She was putting the book back on the shelf and doing her general before-bed tidying up, when the light above her started flickering and then went out. Brienne then turned off all the lamps around the room, leaving the one near her desk on. She soon found out that she couldn't sleep, so she sat up again and turned on the television. She put in a cartoon DVD in the hope that it'd tire her out before the sun came up. She heard a rapping on the wall and stood, not knowing if it came from her door or the wall. She lowered the volume on the TV, fearing that she woke up a roommate, and approached the corner of the room where the noise was coming from. It wasn't the door. It wasn't the wall. It was coming from the closet. What Brienne didn't know at the time was that her deep closet shared a wall with Emily's equally deep closet, not Emily's wall. Brienne assumed it was Emily who was knocking and crept back to bed in silence. Again, the rapping coursed through the room, so Brienne got up, exited the room, only to find Emily fast asleep in her own room, her body splayed nowhere near the wall in question. She checked on Lindsay, who is also fully asunder, her room too far for her to have knocked on the wall. To do so loud enough to gain Brienne's attention would have woken up the whole house. Confused and a little weirded out, Brienne returned to her room, closed the door, and turned off the TV and remaining lamps, and reached for the desk lamp, which turned off before she could hit the switch. She retrieved her hand in surprise, and the light flickered back on. Then she reached forward again, and this time successfully managed to turn it off. The desk lamp seemingly have given up on a life of its own. Suddenly, light flooded the room. The overhead light blasted into life. Perhaps it wasn't the bulb that broke, but simply a loose socket? Brienne, in the few seconds it took her to turn around and head towards the light switch, became uneasy. Sure, it was scary, and the visual impact of the overhead light flickering like crazy was intimidating enough, but it wasn't without the realm of reason that this old house had loose bulbs, sockets, and even wiring, to which she'd have a chat with the landlord about investigating before an inner wall fire could occur. She consoled herself with such thoughts. As she approached the light switch in the strobed room to turn it off, and put an end to this ordeal. However, she began to believe the disturbing effect of the light flickering on and off manically was making her see things. Or not. Because once she got to the light switch, it began frantically flipping up and down on its own. She jumped back in panic, as the disturbing continued for a full few seconds, then suddenly stopped. Following a few moments later, in the darkness, the knocking made a reappearance, but much, much louder than before. Brienne grabbed what she could and got the fuck out of there around 5 a.m., not only not looking back, but too scared to even inform the other girls what went on. It took a long time for Brienne to be coaxed back into the house, since no strange events had occurred since, but Brienne wasn't going anywhere near that room, so she slept elsewhere in the house. It is suggested that she slept on the second floor, since the weather was good, and the only reason it wasn't used is the landlord had yet to repair the AC heating units up there. Brienne refused. As tall-tale hauntings go, Brienne reasoned, she was going to stay away from the attic as far as possible, despite the fact that all the happenings occurred in the back bedroom that she once claimed. Weeks passed, and Emily had some visitors over on one occasion, and Lindsay had some of her own on another. Neither group of visitors slept more than one night in that house, citing that they'd had strange dreams that they refused to discuss. And they had an unnatural apprehension from going down the hall past Emily's room. Lindsay decided to investigate a bit and entered Brienne's room during the day, finding nothing out of order. However, upon inspecting the closet where Brienne heard pounding noises, she discovered that not only did the back of the closet share a wall with the back of Emily's closet, there was a sizable hole cut out of it, enough for a child to pass back and forth. Upon even closer inspection, the wall was shared, yes, but was hollowed. There was 3 or more feet of difference between the 2 panels in the back of the 2 closets. Lindsay shined a light on the little space and found a large spool of industrial wire. She turned the light upward toward the ceiling and discovered this little hollow went straight through the second floor and into the attic. She could see a large beam stretching across, far above. Lindsay kept the discovery to herself for a few days. A night or two later, Emily was looking rather haggard, and explained that it was due to a lack of sleep, since recurring nightmares kept jolting her out of her slumber. The other two girls pressed on the contents of the dream, the result of which shocked them dearly. All three girls, and one overnight guest, had the same dream, as did two previous guests. When contacted, they insisted upon the details. A very old, bald man was suspended above them, from wires somehow attached to his back, reaching up into the blackness. His arms were slung down, locked at the elbow, as to reach as far down as he possibly could. His arms began as skin, muscle, and sinew, but gradually terminated into clusters of wire. The wireman dangled above the dreamer, waving, scissoring his arms back and forth at locked length, as if trying to wipe past the faces of the startled dreamer. Finally, the man would buckle, as if a few inches of slack was granted from above. The wireman would immediately and eagerly grasp the sleeper's throat with its wired hands and choke them vigorously. They could hear him smiling. The dreamer would suffer and die in the dreams before awakening. The vast majority of these factors were shared with the dreamers without deviance. The profusely apologetic landlord didn't question the girl's fright. Obviously there's something he knew that they didn't, and offered to send in an exorcist. Apparently, exorcists are far and few between, so the girls popped down some of the very few reputable psychics that were marvelously expensive. She got 3 to come on half pay, half favor. Remember, this is New Orleans. Even I know of 1,000 psychics, but I only believe 3 or 4 of them. It should be noted that Lindsay was smart about this. She didn't mention anything about the room, dreams, or actual location of the house, and should the psychics wish to investigate before they come to the site, Lindsay convinced them to accept the job with as little information as possible. And all of the girls were there when the psychic showed up, offering them nothing, but listening to everything. The psychics entered the house and all of its rooms feeling nothing until they got to the last room of the hall, where all 3 of them looked at each other in discomfort. One began crying. They backed out of the room. Lindsay took them into Emily's room and showed them the little room between the closets, obviously from the safe side, and directed their attention upward. Soon after, the band of explorers would find themselves in the dreaded attic when had found the crossbeam in question. It had a deeply etched groove of wear from a once taut wire, and was indeed centered directly above the little hole. The psychic soon joined the girls in the living room and discussed what they felt. Apparently, a long time ago, a woman had run off from her husband and little boy. The husband refused to let the child go outside, thinking they'd run off, and the only way the mother would return if the child was there. Surely she'd not come back if it were just the father. One day, tired of the wait, the father locked his son in his bedroom and hung himself. With wire, we're not 100% certain. In the little room, again, we don't know for sure. Until, of course, he died, assuming the mother would come soon for the son. She didn't. The little boy died of dehydration in his room. Well, this didn't explain a good half of what went on, the psychic went on to say. Well, there's some sort of torture. Perhaps self-torture, but I don't know if it preceded the man and his boy, or if it involved the man and his boy. We threw down a bunch of tarot cards, and despite the meaning of the hanged man that we all accept, it came up every damn hand. We used 108 cards, and it came up every 3 cards after a thorough reshuffle. I think it's demanding a new meaning. Perhaps an obvious one? We don't know. We don't normally do this, but certain impressions are undeniable. The landlord offered a second property, bigger, better, and cheaper, which the girls took and presently live. The girls, when they think of it, did a little investigating, and here's what they came up with. 1. Neighbors had seen 6 sets of tenants come and go in the last 2 years alone. 2. Their pal Brian, who had several notorious breakdowns, including crying in class and walking around bug-eyed in the year previous, turned out to have lived in that very house, in that very room for 6 months. Brian was mortified when the girls admitted they stayed there. He even recalled the wireman dream with the eerie clarity and description. Apparently his state has been improved since he's been out of that house. And finally, number 3, that house is currently unoccupied. And that's the end of the story. That is a lot longer than it looks in text form.
Cool.
And lastly, we have Rudy's story. So, Rudy, your story is the original version of that White with Red movie story we watched last week, right?
Right, from the horror shorts when we talked about it. And
right.
So this is the original creepypasta. It's pretty short and sweet, much like Patrick's, just to keep it down. So I'm going to go ahead and go through it. A man went to a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the desk gave him his key and told him that on the way to his room, there was a door with no number that was locked and no one was allowed in there. She explained that it was a storeroom and that it was out of bounds. She reminded him of this several times before allowing him upstairs. So he followed the instructions of the woman at the front desk, going straight to his room and going to bed. However, the insistence of the woman had piqued his curiosity, so the next night he walked down the hall to the door and tried the handle. Sure enough, it was locked. He bent down and looked through the wide keyhole. Cold air passed through it, chilling his eye. What he saw was a hotel bedroom, like his, and in the corner was a woman whose skin was incredibly pale. She was leaning her head against the wall, facing away from the door. He stared in confusion for a while. Was this a celebrity? The owner's daughter? He almost knocked on the door out of curiosity, but decided not to. As he was looking, the woman turned sharply, and he jumped back from the door, hoping she would not suspect that he had been spying on her. He crept away from the door and walked back to his room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was redness. He couldn't make anything out besides the distinct red color unmoving. Perhaps the inhabitants of the room knew he was spying on the night before and had blocked their keyhole with something red. He felt embarrassed that he had made the woman so uncomfortable, and hoped that she had not made a complaint with the woman on the front desk. At this point, he decided to consult her with more information, and she sighed. "Did you look through the keyhole?" The woman told her that he had, and she said, "Well, I might as well tell you the story of what happened in that room. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife in there, and we find that even now, whoever stays in there gets very uncomfortable. But these people were not ordinary. They were white all over, except for their eyes, which were red." And that does it for White with Red, the creepypasta that the adaptation was based off on.
Yeah.
It was pretty...
I feel like they adapted that pretty well.
They did. They really did. They added, I think, a little bit more with the stuff in the bedroom, but I remember that stuff staying with me when I watched it.
Yeah. I thought that was a really good short story based on a pretty good short piece of writing here.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that, Rudy.
No problem.
And with that, let's get wrapped up here. I guess I have, before we get out of here, I have a little bit of housekeeping I want to do. First, the stories we read from last week that Rudy and I read. The Drain Lady was written by Something Awful user Soulbane, who at time of writing was known as Kendrick. And the story Rudy read, Rotten Meat, was written by Something Awful user Jip Bip Joe. Oh, no, I got those backwards. I read Rotten Meat, Rudy read The Drain Lady. But those are who wrote those. I got the names with the right stories. But yeah, thank you guys for those. If you're listening to this, I guess. If you're not, still thanks. Yeah, they're good stories. Also, you can find this and our other Movie Kiwi or Pod Kiwi, our Kiwi podcasts things at podcasts.gamekiwi.net or on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/gamekiwi or finally on iTunes under the name Pod Kiwi. Go check those out, download, review us on iTunes, comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. It works. It helps us out a lot if you do. Thank you very much for joining us, Patrick.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it a whole lot. Very cool of you.
I'm happy.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy hunting for horror films throughout October, Shocktober, and looking forward to watching a bunch through as the month rolls on. Is there anything else you guys want from me?
No. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Do you want to follow my own horror stuff? I just started a horror podcast with my wife called Till Death Do Us Part. We worked through a list of horror films that we came up with early in the month. We try and watch as many as we can and talk about a couple of them each week. And we're going to continue that ongoing. You can find that on iTunes or at tilldeathpodcast.simplecast.fm. And if you're interested in watching me play games, you can see that at Patrick Klepek and whatever service you can think of, Twitch, YouTube, and every day I'm a writer over at Kotaku. So I think that's most of my stuff.
Yeah, and then keep an eye out for this epic Patrick-Dan Reichert Mario Maker duel that's unfolding.
Yes, Dan Reichert, known nightmare, monster, human, quote-unquote human, has been making these horrible Mario Maker levels for me to play. And he made one called The Reikening, which is going to kick off on Monday morning for me. I'll have 72 hours to finish it. He's going to donate $100 to charity if I finish it. I'm going to donate $100 to charity if I don't finish it. And I think over the weekend we're going to set up a charity page. So if people want to donate money for a good cause, for a really stupid cause, but will ultimately go to a good cause, they can do that.
I'm rooting for you because, like you said, nightmare being.
Yep.
So that's the official Horror Kiwi Game Kiwi stance. # Team Patrick.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But yeah, go check him out. He does some cool stuff. His daily Mario Maker show, pretty good. I've been watching it on and off for the last week or two.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate it.
But yeah, that is Kotaku's Patrick Klepek. Check him out. Later, I guess. I don't know how to end this good in the middle.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Patrick.
Have a good rest of the weekend.
Yep, you too.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Like I said,
Thank
comment, subscribe to us on YouTube. I've been Mike.
And I've been Rudy.
And as always, folks, keep it spooky. Ooh.